There's only one thing worse than the mountain here of Mount Panorama. There is only one thing in the world that's worse than this mountain. That's a cold mountain at Mount Panorama. The clouds are in. It is overcast and cold here in Australia. The major series, penultimate round of the championship. It's a Bathurst 500 here on RaceSpotTV and Racing Live. Jake Sperry, Randy Cheneth here for action at Mount Panorama. 23 turns, 6.2 kilometers, and arguably the greatest race in Australian motorsport that you will ever find. But more importantly than that, it is the challenge of this league that everyone has got to be really, really cautious about. The fact that this race is about testing the best from the next best. You've got to deal with some very, very difficult conditions on the track with the cars as well. Holdens and Fords will be the biggest challenge of oversteer and understeer. As I just saw Marcus Niskanen get a big bit of two-wheel air. But practice is done. We're about to get ready for the race. So the qualifying grid is going to be as follows. Teemu Tuikka on pole position with Pete Harrod, the championship leader, alongside Joshua Wolf will start from third with Andrej Rajkovic in fourth. James King starts fifth with Gabriel Roos in sixth with Dave Walsh and Nick Team in eighth position, so Jackie may be involved at some stage. Diego Jimenez starts from ninth with Kurt Crum in 10th. Andres Slisans starts 11th with Treva Vorosky 12th. Marcus Niskanen in 13th with Cordell Cologne 14th. Eric Mickey, David X. Baker on row 8th. Row 9 is David Van Broek and George Gruber. James Ewan and Enrico Leonhardt round out row number 10. Then you have Michael Endres and Dawson Brock, Andreas Robertson and Peter Vostrel with Jan Bruni, Joseph Ringrose on row 13. Row 14 you see Sylvain Maillot and Jared Morgan with John Roberts and Sam Watley, 29th and 30th. Last three drivers are Robert Lundgren, Jan Letzver, and Evolution Racing Team boss Brenton O'Brien. Green flag flies though. We are underway for 81 laps. There was a quick fire grid with just 1 minute to grid up. Tuikka with a good start over the Team Madcar. There in second, around the outside at Hell's Corner. Always going to be very difficult. Cold tyres on the opening lap. Is everybody clear through the opening stages? Just a and bout at this stage. So everyone getting through as now they charge up the mountain straight for the first time. Battle for fourth position sees Rajkovic under pressure as James King goes around the outside. Harrod looking to go around the outside in the early stages. Not quite happening. Washes out to dry. Thank you, says Josh Wolf, moving his Grizzly Motorsports car up to second and then to third, as through will go James King up into that third position at the cutting corner. Randy, no, there's trouble. Harrod's in the wall already.
All right, we got trouble happening here early at the mountain, which is always one of the big worries. Cars work their way through, so early drama. And what was the car he said was in the wall again? I'm sorry?
That was Pete Harrod, the championship leader, who found himself in the wall, and disaster as he'll take a tow. Good news is, one fast repair, he'll be able to get back out and going. But what a hammer blow that is for a championship that could have been sorted out. For Teemu Tuikka, who is second in the championship right now, he'll be smiling at this. They will have to take this one to Myrtle Beach if things stay like this. And my goodness, the last place you want to fight Teemu Tuikka, Randy, is on the ovals. The Finns are surprisingly good if the World Cup of iRacing is anything to go by.
Yeah, they really are. They really, truly are. We're getting a replay of that incident. You see they go through turn 2 and on the run up towards the cutting. This is where we're going to see this incident happen. As they go side by side for the first time. And you see that car, the 21, trying to make it stick on the inside. I'm not actually sure what happened. It's almost like he hit something on the inside, like the inside wall. But that is a huge, huge pileup on the opening lap, as Teemu Tuikka has been able to storm out to a huge lead because of that.
He certainly has. I've just seen Nicky Team in his Red Bull Holden. Let's say some Jamie Whincup livery design. He's managed to get past his good friend Andrej Rajkovic, so he's gone through a little bit of a lock-up in front as well from James King. That's going to put him back into the clutches of Team, as now Diego Jimenez will look to go down the inside of Gabriel Roos, then heading to turn number 1, and will take the position away. So all change then in the early stages of this one, as everybody just trying to find their footing here in these very, very difficult vehicles as they've charged back up the mountain once more. That battle for third, though, certainly not over at this stage. James King may have only a slender advantage, but Nicky T right now washing out to dry through turn 2, a one-line Suitsal corner. Rajkovic says, thank you very much, position's back, old buddy.
Yeah, battle for third is pretty much dead, but the battle for looking for grip on the front end is alive for both of these cars running for that fourth position. You see Andre Rajkovic get a little bit of lockup going into the cutting. So with this cold weather right now here, Jake, it's going to make things really interesting for these guys. The tires are going to be cold, especially off a standing start. You're not going to get the outlap to get out there and heat those tires up, which means that it's going to take you 2, maybe 3 laps to get to the point where the car is sort of at when you're, used to doing practices and, of course, going out there and running a hot lap really, really early. Sitting on the grid for a minute really does bring the temperature of these tires down quite a bit, as Timo is right up against the wall trying to chase down Andre Rajkovic.
Oh, you bet Nicky Team is into the forest elbow, tucked underneath, and now get yourself the chance to run down the famous Conrod Straight to the fastest corner in Australian motorsports, being the Chase. So for the moment, Team tucked underneath, looking to pick that draft apart. Same for Gabriel Roos just behind in the Workiva Kinetic car. He's trying to get away past Diego Jimenez and goes to the outside to make that happen. Team's not close enough to make the move, but my goodness, how brave do you want to be on the brakes as he hits the grass? Straight on will go Gabriel Roos. That's the difficulty of the Chase in vehicles, saloon cars like this that don't chase up, and almost running into Diego Jimenez as well on the exit. But my goodness, Gabriel Roos, 4 positions lost just by getting tires on the grass.
And we're getting a replay of that right now on board with Gabriel. See, he tries it on the left-hand side. He can make his move work.
Bro, I've seen King go around as well. So follow the replay on afterwards, Randy, because James King's had a spin from third.
All right, so we'll do that. We see Gabriel Roos just simply overcooking that corner. And then we'll find King here. See exactly what happened.
Just lost the rear end there, Randy. He just got himself very, very loose on the exit of the final corner. It's cost him a number of positions. He's now with Joseph Ringrose.
Yep, there he is. Now that I find the actual incident. See what exactly to him going through Murray's just, too much curve in that Bushwing car. So that's going to throw away a number of positions for that number 25. Not something you'd like to be doing here at Bathurst early on, as Teemu Toika is still casually in the other Bushwing car. Casually has a 2.5 second lead, 2 laps in the race.
Well, a casual 2.5 second lead, but as we know with Bathurst, it can change on a flick of a single corner, and Teemu Toika knows that better than anybody else. Great scrap, 5th place on down at the moment. Diego Jimenez, Kurt Crum, Marcus Niskanen, Eric Mickey, Gabriel Roos, George Gruber, Andres Sliessans, James Ewens, all in this train, which stretches back a whole country mile. Sliessans and Ewens maybe a little bit off it at the moment, but a lot of bombshell machines here, Randy. The Constructors' Championship still up for grabs, because on December 1st, they have their big finale, and those teams all know that they've got a lot of work to do to get themselves up through. Likes of Mickey, likes of Niskanen, who's in the championship picture as well. They've all got to get up there and get points. Yeah,
we're looking at the Constructors' Championship right now, and of course, this Bombshell Motorsports who currently leads the way. The likes of a couple of Grizzly Motorsports as well as Grizzly Evolution, 2nd and 3rd, Team Mad and Boosted Motorsport, rounding out your top 5. So all these Bombshell guys running up, this far up the order like this, they're going to be pretty happy, I feel, being this far up the order, this deep into the championship, having so many cars tucked inside of this top 10.
Oh, yes, they are. Battle for 3rd position, though, continues between Rajkovic and Team 99 versus the 277 machine. So here comes Nicky, looking for a chance then at turn number 2. Defensive goes Andre Rajkovic in the early stages. In fact, lets him go there. Didn't want to fight Nicky Team. through turn number 2, understands that Nicky is the quicker driver, and as such, Andre lets the position go as they head themselves now towards the mountain section. Good scrap, middle of the pack as well for 14th as well. You've got Michael Endres here, Randy, going at it with Peter Verstraal. This one is going to be a little bit more difficult. It's going to be a little bit more elongated in terms of a battle, but for the moment, they don't have much help in terms of this one because of David H. Baker in front. Yeah,
Peter Verstraal's not going to have really a huge slipstream. He could maybe get a little bit of the double draft, but with that car in front of him getting the slipstream as well, it's going to be very difficult for him trying to make the move. And to be honest, by looks of things, Michael Endres seems to have the advantage over Peter Verstraal as they go up and over the hill once again. Seems like that orange car stretched himself out about a car length and a half, maybe 2 car lengths, as they run through and get ready to go down the hill once again for the 4th time of what should be 81 laps here. 4-hour time limit. Shouldn't come anywhere near that though.
It certainly shouldn't. It's worth reminding everybody that this is a race of endurance. Normally what you'd see from the Bathurst 1000 is 161 laps of pure racing acumen and talent, and that is always going to be a big challenge. Everyone wants to be like the AAA cars that have made some very good progress. They want to be the next Craig Lowndes. Here's Kurt Crum though, looking to get past Diego Jimenez, but not able to do it on the brakes into the chase, and well, it's just a case of waiting at the chicane. A few mistakes happening, a missing boot there for Marcus Niskanen. That's not going to be helping when you've got a certain World 600 and a Daytona 500 winner in Eric Mickey just behind, but down the inside just in front. They're going to remain too wide here. Jimenez and Crum going to be fighting this one out. And let's go Noah's Ark. Too wide, too deep to Hell's Corner.
Yep, all bombshell cars. All look like, half of them look like a bomb's gone off with some of the missing body panels as they go through turn 1. Bunch of teammates having some fun with one another, and of course a non-team car behind wanting to try to pick up some spots here. Going to work the left-hand side as they work down the mountain straight for the 5th time here and in towards turn 2. Looks like they're going to try to single file it out amongst their top couple, but the back of this little pack, they're going to stay pretty much too wide as Gabriel Roos is going to be the one who gets left out to dry.
And he very nearly collects the wall on the outside as well. You've got to be careful about the wall getting caught up in all of it too. You know that this track is pretty much Monaco on a mountain. The moment you hit a wall, bang, they done in these sorts of vehicles. And Gabriel Roos, a lucky driver to keep that one in mind. Good scrap as well going on. Dawson Brock, who is your winner of your Sportsman Championship. That one was already wrapped up. He's in a scrap right now with Evolution Racing Team's boss, Brenton O'Brien, and there the pressure tells. Dawson Brock gets all shades of out of shape, coming out of the cutting, trying to put the power down too early, torque oversteer, and Brenton O'Brien says, thank you, that's mine.
Yep, Brenton will, I think, happily take that position, and they're going to watch on board here as he goes through the cutting. You're absolutely right. He basically comes through the cutting, gets a little bit of oversteer just as he steps on the throttle. One of the big things that really is a struggle with these cars, so much horsepower, so little rear tire. Differential really doesn't do much to help you either. The weight distribution doesn't do much to help you either. Very, very easy mistake to have, especially as now, Jake, the tires are going to start coming up to temp, which means that, well, in theory, you should have some more grip. You're going to have to be a little bit more careful in some other ways as well. Don't want to overheat those tires. A little bit of slipping and sliding can easily do that. You can very quickly go from, oh, I have all the grip in the world, to, and it's gone.
Yes, you can go very quickly to, and it's gone from the Sportsman Champion to the Legends Champion just in front. Jan Bruni just in front of Brenton O'Brien. That's next on his list here in terms of his battle for 21st position. Look at this little train. You've got Bruni, Robertson, Leonhardt, and Ringrose all together, all having a nice little scrap.
Well, Brock has another issue with the cutting.
Oh, well, at the chase even. So Dawson Brock.
At the chase.
Yeah, all sorts of troubles for Dawson Brock. He just went straight on there, couldn't slow the vehicle down, and as such, straight on you go and serve your slowdown. But look at this just in front now of Brenton O'Brien. He goes down the inside of Robertson. He doesn't want to fight anybody so far in this race. He just wants to survive. Jan Bruni, though, still in front and still having a good battle.
Yeah, those 2 cars that Robertson ended up letting through there, both Bruni and Brenton O'Brien. And you know Brenton from Evolution Racing Team races these cars somewhat regularly as they go up the hill, thinking about making a move, but nothing going just yet. Maybe not having the top end here is Brenton, because he seemed to lose out as he got near the end of a mountain straight there. So maybe not having quite the top end in that Evolution Racing Team car. Might be running a little bit more rate, trying to get the thing to turn in. maybe just lifting out of it, not trying to push too much, is if anyone's going to know how to run one of these Bathurst races for, you know, go even just a full 3 hours all by yourself, it's going to be the driver from that Evolution Racing team. Very, very experienced group, getting cars around here, these cars in particular, around the mountain.
Oh, they are always very difficult. Your top 5 in terms of manufacturer is Holden, 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 Holden. In fact, it goes all the way back, Holden, through your top 10, all the way back to 13th position. The first Ford you will find is David H. Baker. Many people think, though, Randy, that there is a balance of performance difference between these two vehicles. They are exactly the same car. The only difference is the badge you put on the front of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's one of the things that iRacing does do for these cars. They're supposed to be identical in some of the categories. They do the same thing for the NASCAR vehicles as well. All the physics are copy-pasted. Only thing that's actually different is that it's the actual, like you said, the visuals of the car, rear wing, badges, the bodywork. That is all, of course, 100% laser scan. But the actual physics and aerodynamics and everything from everything else is identical. A lot of people do prefer the Holden, though, just because it looks better. I'm a Ford person because I am distinguished.
Well, apparently you're distinguished, but I do like myself a Holden. I do drive a Holden when I work with Swift Racing. Peter Verstrael, though, he's under pressure here. There's James King in the 25. He wants to try and get back into 15th position. Did a 2:06.2 that last time, by a full 1.6 seconds quicker than Verstrael just in front. So King may be looking at turn 2 at the quarry corner, but not quite finding himself a chance to make this happen. Now towards the cutting if you're brave, but I think King's waiting all the way through the mountain, Randy.
Yeah, you're going to have to, and especially here, lap number 7 of 81. There's no point doing anything silly for a lot of these guys. This is going to be the first time, you know, potentially, these guys are really putting themselves to the test and trying to do a full fuel run because, you know, of course, in practice, you know, most people tend to have the mindset of I'm going to go out there and I'm going to run some quick laps, and they're going to try to hot lap, hot lap, hot lap, and it can be difficult if you're not used to running this car and if you're not used to this circuit to get yourself through a fuel run with, but James King, he's going to go for it at the top of the hill. Very, very aggressive move there from James. We're going to get a replay on board with that one. Not expecting that whatsoever, even catching us by surprise.
You don't often make a move into Brock's skyline, but James King does not care. He made sure he got himself alongside Peter Verstrael, and Verstrael let go and backed out of it because he wanted nothing of James King going too wide down the mountain. So move made for a certain Mr. James King, James King, and that was a great battle. I was looking at James Ewens for a second because just in front of him, Gabriel Roos is still desperate to try and break up the bombshell, but at the moment it seems that he needs more than just a Jeremy Clarkson saying to get himself that position through. Looking to the inside of Niskanen and not finding it. Look at how wide in front Diego Jimenez goes. Revered to avoid the wall. In fact, one goes off as well, being Eric Mickey who goes around, so bombshell disintegrates at Murray's.
Yeah, bombshell goes off here. We're going to get a replay of Eric Mickey's incident. See the quartet of team cars in towards the final corner. That move happening a little bit deeper in the pack, but Eric Mickey just all by himself. And what's weird is he sort of had the car straightened out when he caught that oversteer, and that's one of the big things you can get in these cars. So much horsepower and so much torque. You can get that oversteer even after you've gotten the car somewhat straightened out coming off some of these slower corners. Pick that throttle up a little bit too much, and these V8s, with all the horsepower they got, they will easily spin up those rear tires and spit you out.
They certainly will. Lap traffic already coming into play. Sylvain Maillot has gone 1 lap down. One vehicle is currently classed as 4 laps down and out of this event. That's Sam Watley in the 75. Robert Lundgren is 1 lap down as things stand at the moment. In fact, he's just retired the vehicle.
We might have technical issues for our second place runner of Josh Wolf. Oh, he's back now.
But well, he's been having them for a lot of laps, so Josh Wolf's got to manage that very, very cautiously. Of course, sometimes when you get to the technical issue and, you know, you start seeing...
He only actually had 3 lap times registered.
Well, that just tells you just how difficult he has been having those issues and just how frequent they have actually been. Look at Michael Endres, though. James King is desperate to find a way through. He's already got past George Gruber, but now next up comes Endres on the brakes, Forrest's elbow, looking for a chance to pick a pocket, but can't quite get there. Now the run to the chase comes along, and Endres, I think, is a dead man walking. Hopes for some draft from David H. Baker, but that won't be much.
Not sure though. James Camey did make a little bit of contact with the outside wall coming off of Forrest Elbow. And I think that hurt James's run down the hill. So it's not going to be a move into the chase this time, as he's going to slot it sort of down the inside, but nowhere near close enough. As there's a mistake from in front. And you were right, James Camey is going to pick up that spot, even though he's about 4 car lengths too far back. That mistake from the driver in front, Michael Andre, is easily going to give King the position.
And he's also going to give, I think that's Joseph Ringrose the position, and the answer is yes. Well, actually, that's Peter Verstraal who gets the position, sorry. So Verstraal makes his way through, but Endres will try and come straight back. Just ran it in too deep. It's so easy to do. When the tyres go, the braking points do change in these vehicles, and Endres has to back out of it from 1, scared of running into the rear quarter panel of a certain Verstraal. Look down the inside from Gabriel Roos, though, at turn 2. He can't get past Marcus Niskanen for love nor money at this stage. And I think for Gabriel Roos, I think he might be thinking, okay, if I'm struggling to get through, I want to get through, and actually almost runs into the rear again up the cutting. He may just try and think, okay, pit stop strategy. It may have to be that way.
And that's going to be one of the big things. I mean, this being a 3-hour race, I don't think these cars will come anywhere close to potentially hitting the hour. So it's I mean, obviously we're not, we're expecting it to be done by laps rather than by time, but still, it's probably going to be a 4, maybe even 5 pit stop event here tonight as they go through in towards this one, down the hill once again for these guys. So when you actually come down pit road, it's going to be very interesting. I'm not as fluent in the V8 supercars as some, so what would you say the pit window is going to end up being here tonight, Jake? Probably somewhere in the, what, lap 20 or so?
I reckon it will be around a 4 or a 3 stop race, depending. So these vehicles can normally go about half an hour on a tank. They've done themselves about 9 laps in 16, 17 minutes, so they're due it. But here's Niskanen under pressure. He'll be struggling because he's lost a little bit in the back. So through straight away goes Gabriel Roos, now up inside of 6th position there, taking the move and making that one happen. Can you slow it up? He just about can from Gabriel Roos. Good work then by his standards as things continue. David H. Baker under pressure behind now as well, and he loses out the position to James King, who is storming back through the field. Now George Gruber wants a piece of it in the Torque Freak racing car, thinking about, can I get myself down the inside? Answer to that one is yes, and now they remain too wide, heading to turn number 1 and looking to try and make that happen. But I am thinking 3 or a 4 stop here today, more likely being the 4, as George Gruber makes the position through 1.
Yep, Gruber very interesting there. We could be interesting to see though, because kind of expecting 20 to 22 laps, it seems like, from the chat, which means you're going to be setting yourself up for sort of a shorter final stint at the end, which means that some people might come down pit road here a little bit early, Jake, try to fill up early and get on a somewhat alternate strategy. So it's going to be interesting to see how some people play this out as this race goes on, as we near that pit window. We're about 10 minutes out away from it for the potential early comers, lap 15, 16, 17. And we're about 20 minutes away from the expected pit stops, lap 20, 21, 22.
Certainly are, and of course it is incredibly difficult, this pit entry as well. Australian pits tend to be the most difficult when it comes to iRacing. Joseph Ringrose under pressure though. This is Dawson Brock trying to get down the inside. He's in the wall and gets turned as well, blocking 2/3 of the track, and will need to try and sort himself out. They've done so well to get around it. He's destroying all of his vehicle trying to get back going again, but Dawson Brock, one small mistake, he saw the glory, and how easily Bathurst takes it away from him.
Yeah, but that's all it takes here. To see down the inside, he just clips the curb or he clips the wall on the left-hand side, and that basically just catches the car and basically sends them around. Luckily, it didn't look like he made a particularly hard hit with the wall. Now, he did sort of, after he was busy Austin powering himself to get himself turned back around, but still not going to be exactly what he would have liked as drivers continue working their way through here, working a lap 11 and 8 of 81, and mighty how much this gap to some of these cars deeper in the pack has gone compared to your leader of Timu Toika. Just look at the top 10. It's not often the first 11 laps of the race you'll see the top 10 separated by 30 seconds on the racetrack.
No, it's very, very rare to see. Gabriel Roos is already caught up to Kurt Crum, though. 2:06.3 that last time by, took 7/10 of a second. Gabriel Roos and that Workiva Kinetic car working very well. Of course, in the international split, they had a bit of help from Josh Nowak on loan from Swift Racing. So Workiva Kinetic have a very, very nice setup here for Bathurst, and they're looking to try and use it here. Crum under pressure then, up through turn 2, and then to 3 and 4, but it's that mountain which you can't overtake at, but you can so easily lose it at, the likes of Solomon Park, McPhillamy Park, the Frog Hollow. That's where you hope that your opponent makes a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, although it can somewhat be a little bit hectic when your opponent right in front of you makes a mistake going up those parts of the racetrack, and of course you're so committed going over all these points on the racetrack that you're pretty much expecting just to get your way through more or less single file. So if you're in a situation where you need to check yourself up when the driver in front of you makes a mistake, it can be very difficult doing so. It's one of the good marks of drivers who are really comfortable here, is being able to make those checkups and able to make those moves. That's what makes the 12-hour race so great here with the multi-classes, GT3 cars and everything else, but still running these big, overpowered, overweight machines up and down this hill is mighty fun to watch. And the way it's looking, I mean, we're talking about getting NASCAR at the Gold Coast. We're going to see NASCAR here sometime?
Well, I hope they do, because this is absolutely beautiful Australian racing. And of course, you see just how difficult overtaking can be and just how much of a spectacle this track has been. On the brakes once more into the left-right chicane at the end of the lap. And Gabriel Roos again will have to play waiting game trying to get past the bombshell car. He hasn't had the overall to make a big move. He's just not quite been there to make that happen, but he is on that waiting list to try and get a position as things stand. Lap 12 we start here at Mount Panorama, and I think we just had Josh Wolf have what we expected him to have, and the answer is technical issues. He will now drop Miles back down the order. It promotes Nicky Thiem up to second and Andrei Rajkovic up to third.
Yep, so for Mr. Thiem, it's been a very good race for him. Started P8, currently running P2 now, 13 seconds off your race leader. Of course, Timo Toika is out there running basically a second quicker per lap than the rest of the universe, so likely no hope for Nicky to reel him in on pure pace. I think we're going to see this Red Bull car probably just tone it back a little bit, but that's also not the Nicky Thiem style. You know he's going to want to hoon it and get everything he can out of this machine, try to somehow, some way reel in that gap to Timo Toika. But of course, with all Nicky's experience, this is the sort of track was what Nicky's done in real life. He should be able to sprint this car around here going as fast as he possibly can without having too many issues. Of course, run mini real cars, some of the most difficult circuits in the world. Although that's not nearly as big of a success as his streaming antics now, is it?
Oh no, it certainly isn't, and he's probably streaming this race live right now when it comes to his YouTube channel. But look at the difference in lap times. He is a second a lap slower than Timo Toika at the moment. A second around here hurts so much, and you can see just how that gap continues. At this rate, it might be a winning margin of 1 minute and 20 seconds if things continue like this for Timo Toika. But once more, Gabriel Roos trying to get past Kurt Crum in the battle for 4th place, looking at just having to back out of it then on the brakes into the left-right chicane once more. And Gabriel Roos just seemingly playing that waiting game, probably thinking about, okay, do I need to think about a pit stop right now? No? Okay, we're going to continue for another lap then and try once more. On the brakes, final corner, lock up from Kurt Crum as well. That won't be doing the tyres any favours, but Gabriel Roos certainly very, very consistent on that setup.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's looking strong, looking confident as well. It's just one of those things, I think, if you're Gabriel Roos, are you really in a hurry trying to get around Kurt Crum? Because the next car up the road is Andrei Rajkovic, who's about 12 seconds clear. I mean, they're already going through turn 2, while these guys aren't even halfway down the back straightaway yet. So for Gabriel Roos, say he's in a pretty much don't want to challenge anything too much, but he's going to in towards turn 2 up the inside. Kurt Crum's going to just give him that spot. So as I say, maybe he's not in a big rush to get the position overtaken. He takes it. I think that's the 3rd or 4th time that's happened to me already in 13 laps.
Well, that's what this sort of racing does, Randy. It changes all your perceptions. David H. Baker, though, is on pit road and will be the first driver to come down in and make a stop as Dawson Brock runs wide as of the final corner. Out of the penultimate corner, Jared Morgan just behind. runs a little bit wide. Let's focus on this 3-car battle, though, going on for 18th position. You've got Joseph, or 17th position now. Joseph Ringrose, Jan Bruni, Michael Endres all together, and Ringrose now playing the defensive marker. Here comes Jan Bruni thinking about the inside, not going to get it into turn number 2. If you're a brave man, you do it at the next corner here, Randy, but Joseph Ringrose, VRT, certainly knows what it takes to defend in open Formula cars. Closed wheel, touring car style. This is a little bit tougher. You've got to get your elbows out.
Yeah, you certainly do. Luckily for them, though, the little bit of overseer for that 830 of Ringrose. Don't want to get your elbows out too much. Luckily, though, it's one of these situations that is really not too many points on this racetrack you really have to defend. Only really a couple of good passing opportunities. Of course, run down into the chase, coming down Conrad, which will be the next one for these guys. You also have the first corner, the last corner you can even argue, and of course turn 2. But beyond that, it's more or less single file, so that can be a somewhat saving grace if you're not used to these sort of closed cockpit machines. Yeah, as difficult as getting around this place can be. See the driver behind of Jan Bruni actually make a mistake. Oh, we've got a couple cars in the wall behind. We got a big pile up.
Yes, Enrico Leonhardt and also Treva Vorosky coming together, and that's a big shunt. Vorosky now will take all the damage. It happened so quickly on the chase down the mountain. All Enrico Leonhardt. There was no contact at all to cause that incident. In fact, there was a little bit. Sorry, I think there was. It was a shot to the rear from Vorosky, who just carried too much momentum heading towards that Forest Elba.
Yep, and we're going to get a replay of this on board with Vorosky. We saw the TV cam now as they go through the dipper. Run in towards the Forest Elba, you're going to see just a little bit too deep on the brake. Actually, I think everyone kind of checked up a lot earlier than Trevor was really expecting there, and he just didn't get on the brakes. I don't know if that was maybe him getting a little bit target fixated and just ran into the back of him, or if that was everyone just checking up a little bit early because it was such a long train of cars going down towards Forest Elba. He was just the latest one to get on the brakes. Nowhere, of course, to make the move there, but pretty big incident, and that's going to take, will probably not take cars out, but certainly will shuffle cars well down the order and put them pretty much on a 67-lap recovery drive.
It's Jan Bruni down the inside of Joseph Ringrose and makes sure to get the position. He checked it up as well. Endres was left in no man's land trying to make the move as well on Ringrose. He just had nowhere that he could go, and that allows Andreas Robertson the chance to try and get back at it, but he can't quite make the move in the purple and yellow we sometimes see in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. So Jan Bruni makes a good move there down the inside. Really gave Ringrose nowhere to go. Almost a block pass there, Randy.
Yeah, it sort of was, but that's sort of what you have to do here when you get those opportunities at Bathurst. If you have a chance to pass someone, you have to be aggressive with it and just get it done, get it over with. And exactly what he did, especially if you sort of defend behind while you make the pass. It's a great opportunity as you ride down the hill with Ringrose. Closely closing up now on that car in front as they swing back through the dipper and coming towards that corner we just saw the incident at, here towards Forest Elba. And you see everyone kind of drags the brakes through that right-hander, is trying to keep that car in line, and then of course they lift off the brakes for a moment, straighten the car up, and then hard on the brakes to get it down into the elbow.
Get hard on the brakes and then get back on the power as quickly as you can. Robertson starting to lose the train. Endres now starting to pick up a nice little toe here compared to Joseph Ringrose. He has overshot it once though here in this event. He's got to be careful about it, and he's carrying so much speed more than what Ringrose is. Was looking to the inside and, well, can't quite get it turned the way that he would want to. Focus back though all the way down the field here, Randy, because I want to keep an eye on Pete Harrod in the 21, currently in 26th position, a minute 49 off your race leader after having to take a fast repair. And this now for Pete Harrod is damage limitation for Team Mad, especially with your race leader, currently his nearest rival in the championship.
Yeah, so this is kind of going to be a disaster situation for Harrod to give potentially Toyka this many points going into the final race. But, you know, we're not even a quarter of the way through this thing. You know, I think we're still going to lose at least a half dozen more cars, if not, you know, closer to 10, maybe even a full dozen cars before we get to the end of this thing. That's just the sort of effect Bathurst can have, especially when you're talking about what ends up running out to be pretty much an exactly 3-hour-long event. Let me tell you, there's a lot of mental fatigue that you get around this place. You know, not even that, just, you know, even physical, depending on the wheel and pedal setup that you have. This place can make you sore to run around. Might sound silly talking about you know, I'm getting a little bit sore playing on a video game, but it is definitely something that you need to take in mind. So for Pete Herod, he just needs to try to prevent that as much as he can. He's not going to reel in too many spots by outpacing people. The gaps out in front are simply too big to a large number of those cars. He's, I think, pretty much just sit here, make sure he logs laps clean, and ensure that he gets to lap number 81 with a more or less clean car.
Yeah, and more or less clean car is what's needed. Harrod had a 91-point lead coming into this one. That 91 points is going to be probably half if things stay like this. Andre Rajkovic has dramatically fallen back over the last few laps comparatively to Nicky Team. He was running around a second behind Randy, but now suddenly that gap extends to about 3.6, maybe even 3.74 seconds at this stage, and that's not what Andre Rajkovic will be hoping, because he knows that if he continues at this sort of pace, at 207.8, he'll be soon reeled in by the Workiva Kinetic car of Gabriel Roos.
Yeah, the last couple laps has just sort of fallen through the floor for him. He's doing pretty much mid to high 206s. The entire stint, he did one 207.1 and then back-to-back 207.8s. So the pace has come out from under this car for Andre Rajkovic. That said, we are sort of in the weird window time when it comes to the tires here, Jake. This is when they're going to start going away, when drivers are going to really be pushed. The drivers who may not be used to these vehicles as much, this is going to be when it gets troublesome for them. And I think if we're going to see a mistake, this is sort of the window we would typically expect it, even from some of these guys that are doing very, very well out in front of the field, such as Andre. This is the sort of time that these cars start getting really, really tricky. That said, you're also in the window. Yeah, we might be expecting 21 to 22 laps typically. You may see some people come down lap 18, lap 19 because of that, to try to shorten the issue for themselves as much as they can.
What I will say is that the cold conditions are helping tyre life, so I'm focusing on this 13th place battle between Eric Mickey and David Van Broek. Mickey, the oval specialist, had two big NASCAR victories at Daytona and at Charlotte this season, and was so close to picking up Indianapolis as well, had it not have been for contact with Stephen Baxter. But Eric Mickey, for the moment, not under pressure at the moment, but is keeping at bay David Van Broek. There was Van Broek dropping 3 seconds on that last lap, a mistake which allowed Eric Mickey to make his way through, but they know that small mistakes are exacerbated. Marcus Niskanen goes Tokyo style through the final corner.
A little bit of drifting then coming out here, which you can somewhat expect here, especially through that final corner. We saw one of these bombshell cars go a little bit too much Tokyo, a little bit too much Shane Van Gisbergen off that final corner and spin around earlier. But that's going to be what you expect, especially with these guys. The tires starting to go away. And the big thing you have to worry about, Jake, in these cars, if the front tires go away, you can kind of deal with it. Getting a little bit of understeer in a big, heavy car like this isn't the end of the world. You just check your braking zones back up a little bit. Maybe you don't push as hard. It's frustrating to deal with, but you're unlikely to end a race, well, except for maybe going up and over the hill and plowing into one of the walls. But it's really the rear tires going away with all the trail braking that you do and the smooth that you have to be on the throttle. That's where things get really difficult in these cars and these last handful of laps before you hit pit lane.
And not only that, Marcus Niskanen now has a bit of a friend in Diego Jimenez just behind, which will not be ideal, but something that they will have to just monitor at this stage, and they will have to be very cautious about the way that this race is going to go. Another poor lap actually from David Van Broek. He did a 209.0 that last time by, a full 1.6 seconds slower than Brenton O'Brien, who started this one dead last in 33rd, already up to 15th, now eyeing up 14th position.
Yes, we've had a very good run to be running through the field like that. It's very difficult to end up actually doing that near the mountain. So for Breton, you know, I think this might be, I don't want to, you know, jump into conclusions, but almost a bit of a, this is what us Aussies can do race, because nothing against Breton, but he's certainly not the quickest driver that you would typically see in the Australian sort of group, but I believe he's more or less the lone Australian we have in the field today. So I think he's more or less just doing a sort of, let's see how deep I can start in this pack and run my way up forward. And he's doing a good job of that. Passing half the field in the opening stint is going to be a very good result from him. Now he is sort of starting to get to the point where he's hitting cars that are running more or less his speed though. So things are going to be starting to get a little bit too much of an issue for him. And he's going to throw a move down in towards the chase in this Evolution Racing Team car, and he's going to make that stick. So put that boosted Motorsports car of David Von Brock in the rearview mirror after a fantastic move at Caltex Chase.
Oh, that was brilliant work from Brenton O'Brien, using his own teammates' experience in a supercar, that being Anton De Pasquale, rookie this year in the real world supercars, to get a move done there. So that's great work then from Brenton O'Brien, moves himself up into 14th position. Train now forming actually is Jan Letzever, whose lap traffic has a bit of a moment at turn 2. That's in front of Ewens, Gruber and King. So that's 2 Torque Freak cars and 1 Team Bushfink car, all of them having this big scrap going on now for the last 3 spots inside of your top 10. They're having all of this scrap, and when you get lap traffic having incidents in front of you, it's so easy to get collected up the mountain, Randy.
Yeah, it's very easy to get collected up the mountain. It's not anything you want to have happen as much as you can. Dealing with lap traffic going up and down the hill, I mean, it's one of the most difficult things in all of road racing, probably. In these cars on this track, trying to deal with a car that is damaged off pace, you know, you come up on it on an awkward time, it can really throw a wrench into the works. You know, especially when you're talking about a single class event. It's not something you expect traffic at, say, the Nürburgring in a 24-hour race if you're in a GT3 car coming up on some little club cars in the real world. Same thing here for the 12-hour race. You expected some traffic. Here, you know you're likely to hit some slower lap traffic at some point, but it's going to happen to you so rarely that when it does happen, it can somewhat catch you off.
It certainly can do. It's just keeping an eye on Michael Endres, who has just come down in and made his stop. So the pit stop window is open here at Mount Panorama on lap 19 of this event. Well, in more theory, lap 18 here at this wonderful track. No takers really at this stage. Everyone wanting to run the tank to dry in the early proceedings here after 38 minutes worth of racing plus so far. We keep an eye still on this James King battle as he looks to try and get past the Torque Freak boys, and it seems that for the moment at least Ewens makes a small mistake. I think he may be letting George Gruber go here and now going to do a little bit of multi-21 action. They will change position straight back into the draft, trying to get as much power as possible, but they've left the door open here for James King, slinging one down the inside. He gets one for his troubles. He doesn't quite get the second.
Yeah, it would have been a little audacious if he managed to get both of them. So now for George Gruber, that plan didn't really work out. I think he wanted to try to get the pressure of James King away from him from the rearview mirror, but all he ended up was keeping James King in the rear view, and now George Gruber doesn't have any slipstream. That said, if he's quicker than Ewens, he'll maybe be able to start opening a gap over James King if he has the pace. It'll be interesting to see here over the last couple of laps before drivers end up coming down pit road for their first stops.
Yeah, that's going to be very telling. How good are you going to be on the low fuel? How good are you on the high fuel as well? Because when you've got a big, bulky, heavy car and you've been seeing that fuel deplete at around 5 litres a lap, you know that it can be so different when things put fuel back into the car, or shall I say, not necessarily things, as bang into the wall goes Jan Letzever, and that's pretty much going to signal you're going to have to come down in. His car looked battered and bruised, heads through Brock's skyline, just gets himself a little loose, trying to recover the car back. It wouldn't go, and as such, he's hard right into the mountain.
Yeah, that car already had some damage. He's already scored a lap down to this number 80. You can see it looks pretty haggard on the replay as he goes down in towards the skyline. And what in the world happens here? Well, pretty much everything went wrong there as he went in, wasn't on the right line, was way too high up the racetrack, was way too much speed. Think he even probably caught himself a rear tire on the brakes. That pretty much resulted in the oversteer moment as Andrei Rojkovic continues to fall backward. He's brought the lap times back down a little bit towards those low 207s. He's even run a 206 relatively recently. But actually, no, I take that back. That's a lap car. I thought we might have been getting somewhat close to maybe some racing up near the front of the field. That's lap traffic he's currently working through.
Well, the good news for him is that it was only 0.2 of a second he lost on that last lap compared to Gabriel Roos. So the tyres may be starting to fall away here. 207s. We are starting to see the differences. Teemu Toika is able to run 2:05.7 lap times.
Just casually is 2 seconds quicker than the universe.
Casually 2 seconds quicker than the universe. Casually has only dropped over this stint 0.7 of a second in terms of tyre life and time, which is Magnificent work as Michael Endres goes all over the curb in front of Rajkovic. Same livery, teammates and all. So Rajkovic's got to be careful in the middle of the traffic, because the moment traffic make mistakes, you can so easily make mistakes as well. And it's not the case that this track's going to be easy to get past that traffic as well. Only really 2 main overtaking opportunities here at Mount Panorama. Yeah,
I mean, that's the big thing. That's what we've been talking about all through the second half of this first stint. They've started to get to some lap traffic, but you do have sort of, at this phase now, you do have the extra option of potentially even come down pit road, Jake. So for Andrei Rajkovic, yeah, he's got a teammate in front of him that's likely going to make life somewhat easy in the 811. That's Michael Enders. It's one of those situations, if you don't want to deal with the lap traffic, you can come down pit road. He's on the left-hand side coming out of the chase. He can hit the lane if he chooses so, but he's not going to. He can go into the final corner, somewhat racing him with his teammate a little bit as they come off the final corner. Now we'll have him in the rearview mirror comfortably. As a cross-start finish, they'll come. So I think this next time, we're likely going to see our first batch of drivers hit pit road, and those who maybe saved a little bit of fuel, likely on lap 22, if not even lap 23.
Yeah, that's very, very telling. Dawson Brock, though, is in that scrap with Michael Endres and can't afford to lose too much time. So you can see weaving back to the inside. Brock goes to the outside. Well, now which turns to the inside to make the move. Endres has got to be late on the brakes and unfortunately wash out to dry at turn 2. So Endres then can't do much about that one. That is just a good move. We were talking about Gruber and you and King a moment ago as well. How it would be interesting to see what's happening. King's unable to get past Gruber, both catching Niskanen and Nosen. Niskanen under pressure, desperately needing to keep his championship alive. It's dead as things stand.
Yeah, and that car just doesn't have any pace in it. That damage he has is really slowing him down in the 208s, 209s pretty consistently. And if you look up and down the timing sheet, that's more or less where he's been over the course of the entire stint. So I think losing that rear wing and of course having some of that damage really is going to be costing that car just a little bit of speed every single lap. So I think Gruber will be able to make short work of it. But will he have the time and will he be able to make short work of it in this stint before they come down pit road? That's going to be the question. You know Gruber would love to come out of the pits with that car in his rearview mirror.
Certainly would. Down the mountain they go as Niskanen is all shades of sideways through Brock's skyline, trying to bring the car back. Big lockup then at the dipper for George Gruber as they charge their way to the Forest Elbow, and on the brakes they all come along once again. 4 nice locks of brakes from 4 drivers going through. Very, very telling by all of them. Teemu Tuikka stays out once more. Nikki Team has decided to stay out, as will Rajkovic then at lap 21. Does Gabriel Roos decide he wants to come down in? He'll be the first of your leaders to come in, as he will now attack this very tricky pit road all over the curves, and of course a very, very late yellow cone marker, Randy.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things here at Bathurst. You can give up a couple seconds coming onto pit road. A lot of drivers who are inexperienced here, they will just be so passive and so calm coming on towards the pits, but you can carry so much speed coming onto pit road here that there's a lot of time to be found. So Gabriel Roos, though, as you said, the first one to end up blinking here and coming down towards pit road. See when everyone else comes down, it should be this lap as Teemu Tuikka stretching out, going to have pretty much a 20-second lead by the time this first stint runs itself out.
Well, that's what we're going to be expecting. Tuikka at the moment having a very, very accomplished run. Also who came in was George Gruber, looking to make a stop, so he'll need to be back out and away again. Long stop here in these vehicles. Changes for tyres, also a change, well, a lot of fuel being added into these cars too. So some very, very long stops when it comes to this one. Kurt Crum makes his way through. In fact, he was, I believe, one of the first to come down and make a stop. So Kurt Crum on the alternate as things stand. Potentially answer is going to be yes. He did a 3:03 last time by. So Crum comes out behind Gabriel Roos, which is important, but look at where George Gruber's going to come out. Big slide, and he's going to come out behind Joseph Ringrose, and now Dave Walsh may start thinking about drafting his way back in.
Yeah, so not exactly a great situation for him to come off the pit road, is it? As these guys going to work their way up in towards turn 2. Let's see, leaders. Teemu Tuikka is on pit road. Nikki Team will be the next driver. He's coming off the chase. He'll likely be coming down pit road as well. That seems to be the plan for the 277. Andrew Rojkovic will be next. He's 7 seconds or so back from Nicky. So all of our leaders pretty much coming down pit road now as Toyka is in the box getting himself serviced.
He is getting that service. So to Snauki, time to make your stop and get yourself going again. He has been faultless in the opening stint as Rajkovic dives down onto the lane as Diego Jimenez actually decides to stay out. Niskanen comes on the lane. King comes on the lane. James Ewens decides to come on the lane as Andres Slisans decides to stay out, but it's a long, long stop as Cordell Cologne comes out of pit road, almost a lap down at this stage. Race lead will go to Diego Jimenez then for the moment. He'll get a couple of laps under his belt, maybe just the one. Toyka waiting still, finally gets out and away off of pit road. He'll be followed out by David H. Baker, who's multiple laps down. Pit party all aboard.
Yeah, everyone is coming down on towards pit road. 4 tires, fuel. Fill the sucker up, get yourself back out there on the racetrack. David Von Brock's also coming down pit road, but when are some of these other cars going to be hitting the pit road? That's going to be the question we ask ourselves, as it's been a long, long stint here for Diego Jimenez. So when he eventually hits the lane, he might be just slotting himself in as sort of a dark horse on this fuel strategy, but I don't think he can go long enough for it to really make a huge effect in terms of the grand scheme of this race here, Jake. Maybe a cheeky position or two, but I don't think he's going to be able to say cut out a stop anyway.
Andrei Rajkovic comes off of pit road. He is behind Kurt Krum and Gabriel Roux, so the long stop not paying off for Rajkovic. Niskanen comes out of pit road, and King comes out of pit road just behind his rival George Gruber. So Gruber's done just enough in that stop, but look what's very crucial. Ringrose, a vehicle in between King and Gruber. That was not part of the script which was wanted, and now it seems that a certain Mr. King is going to be hoping that, like Jamie Whincup, a rear wheel's going to fall off from the gun from the vehicle of that Red Bull Holden.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty unlikely, though, as much as James maybe can cross his fingers and hope for that to happen as they work their way up from the cutting and up the hill for the 23rd time. These guys now going to be on new tires, and now this is sort of another difficult phase of the race for them, because this is the first time, Jake, that they transition from hot tires immediately to cold tires in a heavy race car. So this is going to be interesting to see. This is another phase of the race where it can be difficult to reassimilate to yourself to what the car was like when it was essentially fresh and brand new. Maybe even got a couple repairs on that car while you're down on pit road. You might see some people make mistakes here in these opening first couple laps after the pit stop.
Yeah, into pits comes Diego Jimenez and Andres Slisans, which gives the race lead back once more. Still surprised, Brenton O'Brien on the Evolution Racing Team strategy, which is fuel save to your heart's content, and is fuel saving to said heart and to said content. Niskanen under pressure though, trying to fend off George Gruber. Andreas Robertson yet to come down and make a stop. Look at Gruber though, trying to be aggressive on the inside, but can they both slow it up? Niskanen just about manages it, gets a lot of curb though. Will be under pressure here at Murray's, has to defend the line. In comes Robertson, in there goes Gruber down the inside. Niskanen can defend it, he goes sideways. Gruber goes too far, shot to the back, and Niskanen will lose more than just that.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate there for those guys as they work themselves through. So Niskanen is going to lose himself a couple spots here in that 002. These guys are going to work themselves back up the hill. You get a bombshell car coming off pit road as well, I think, also joining this party. That's going to be the 510 of Jimenez. So he's going to come in and immediately join this little scrap. So we go from 2 cars after the pit stops to 3 and now 4 all in a train trying to pick up positions.
A battle pack, as it were. So positions very, very difficult to come by. At the end of this lap, we'll get you a rundown of how things stand after the first pit stop. Great little battle between those 4 at the moment. We want to also keep an eye on Eric Mickey here. He's, I think, just got past James Ewens into turn number 2. Good move by Mickey. He was straight down the inside, and that's about as basic of a move you can make here at Bathurst.
Yeah, it really is. You know, a handful of spots where it'd be relatively easy to get the move as long as you can get the slipstream. And still keeping an eye on Brenton O'Brien here. We mentioned earlier, Jake, that he didn't really have the pace of some of the cars he was catching up to. I was going to say, well, never mind. Doing a little bit of math, because some of the viewers saw when I brought up the calculator. I was going to say, if you could somehow, some way, find a way to do 27 laps, you'd be able to cut out a stop on this event. Brendan O'Brien way short of doing that as he comes down on lap number 25. So the fuel save maybe not working out wholeheartedly here for Brendan just yet, but now he might be able to give himself a bit of a short fill, come out ahead of the number of the cars he's starting to sort of line up behind that 384 car. Of course, the sole driver, well, not the only driver, but one of the drivers he started pretty much without a qualifying time, starts at the complete tail end of the field, trying to run his way all the way up, and he currently has himself scored second, but of course that's somewhat deceiving. He still owes us the pit stop.
He still owes the pit stop, but if things continue like this, he'll only have to pit with about 9 laps to go at the end of this event, and that will save him a lot of time when it comes to his pit stop. So even though it's not going to be the case that he will cut out a stop, Randy, he will still cut out a valuable amount of time, as we've seen from some of these very long stops.
Yeah, I mean, just one lap here at Mount Panorama can often be the difference. We know that it's historically been one of those tracks where saving fuel whenever you can is vastly important, especially if you're in these sort of tight battle packs that you see the likes of Diego Jimenez in, Marcus Nixon is in, James King and George Gruber as well. When you're in these sort of scraps, the more fuel you can save, the better, as these guys work themselves up the cutting now. Now solidly getting these tires heated up, get a little bit of fuel burn off in this car, and get it basically to the point that that you're experiencing with, that you're dealing with.
Yeah, very important. Brendan O'Brien's come out to pit road. He is behind Eric Mickey, your top 8 then on your screen. Timu Toika leads this event comprehensively, from Nicky Team in second with Gabriel Roos now in 3rd position. Kurt Crum is in 4th with Andre Rajkovic 5th. George Gruber in 6th ahead of James King and Diego Jimenez as well. So that's your top 9. Top 10 is rounded out by Marcus Niskanen and Andres Slisans. We're going to step aside here for a moment. We're going to take some RaceSpotTV fan immersion. Let's go backwards to Brendan O'Brien. He just came out of pit road. He's on a 4-car scrap of his own. Last in the pack, Mickey, Verstraw and Ewens to chase. Dare I say it, Brenton O'Brien is going one way, and that one way is the wrong way in terms of time. 2:07.3, that last time by lost 4/10 to Eric Mickey just in front. That battle pack has broken up then on lap 28 out of 81 here at Mount Panorama, and it is full chase mode at the moment for your leader, Teemu Toika, because just in front of him is a scrap Pete Harrod trying to go to the outside of Joseph Ringrose and gets fully held up through the apex. A nice stop from Ringrose. The team Madcar desperate to get through, trying to find the inside, can't find it, has to go to the outside at Murray's, pick a pocket up and under it, but again gives him a shot. I'm mad, I'm team mad, I'm frustrated that I can't get my way through. And look who's just behind, championship rival, who will be having a little smile in the cockpit, Randy, seeing his rival about to go one lap down.
Yeah, definitely, as they work themselves off this first corner. Pete Harrod not going to be very happy right now, but he's done a good job recovering. He's picked up a number of positions since the last time we checked in on him, currently sitting in that 20th position in that Team Mad car as he sort of bobs and weaves as they come up the hill in towards turn 2. And Harrod's troubles might get a little bit worse. He's all over the place through that second corner, somehow hangs on. And now Teemu Toika is just like, oh God, please don't let me get involved in this in all the wrong ways.
Blue flag, blue flag. He'll be hoping that blue flags will be furiously waving up the mountain as Joseph Ringrose is really proving to be a thorn in the Pete Harrod side. He may have to go for the Max Verstappen approach of trying to get past, as Teemu Toika doing the right thing, just staying out of trouble, and in the wall goes Ringrose as he heads through the Frog Hollow. That is such a dangerous place, and they're going to come together again as they head through McPhillamy Park. It seems no close quarters given as Toika gets a nose shoved in front of him. I don't think Ringrose even knew that Toika was there.
I think Ringrose is busy just getting bashed around right now and trying to just recover. That's going to hold up Toika a little bit in the Bushfink car, who's eventually going to be able to just slip through. But for Joseph Ringrose, I want to ride about on board for about the last minute or so, because that has not been a fun ride for him, but it'll be a fun ride for us to watch.
You bet it will. Contact at the Frog Hollow, contact at McPhillamy Park, contact almost at Skyline, and then almost contact heading down towards the Big Dipper as well. Joseph Ringrose has been a ring around the rosy, it seems, at this stage in the event. Josh Wolf comes down onto pit road. He will make his stop, his first scheduled stop of the day. Remember, he will be on a different strategy compared to everyone else due to his technical issues, Randy.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, even with him being on the sort of alternate strategy, just so many laps down, or he's not last down, excuse me, but he's lost so much ground that he's pretty much, I don't want to, ever call anyone irrelevant, but I don't think there's any way he's really going to be able to break into the top 10 here. He might find somehow, some way, if some drivers in that top 10 can, find themselves into some issues, but for him right now, that just doesn't look too likely. As though, by the way, Nicky Team, who's running in that second spot, I don't know what's happened to that 99 of Andre Roykvik, but he's fallen back to P5. So Nicky has himself a nice comfortable 8-second gap back to the 323 of Gabriel Roos, actually make that 10 seconds. So our car that was running third for a while in that 99 lost a lot of ground through that pit stop sequence.
I'd say he lost about 15 seconds there, Randy, which suggests to me speeding coming onto the lane, which Roykvik would not be too happy about. Ringrose comes out just in front of Roykvik, who is one lap down and in 5th position, but Nicky Team gained a good 3 seconds on that last lap over Teemu Toika, brings the gap down to just 17 seconds on the road, and that's what Teemu Toika is going to have the big worry about. He's got to get through the traffic first, and that's the worst part about it. And let's just say this here, Pete Harrod will not want to let a certain Teemu Toika go through at any stage.
No, he's definitely not going to want to, especially being championship contenders, but I think Harrod's also smart enough that trying to fight with Teemu, yeah, there might be a little bragging rights on the line, but it's really not a big difference between if Teemu finishes a lap ahead of him or not, all things considering, based on the situation right now. That said, I just looked at the pit stop times for Nicky Team and Andre Roykvik. They were more or less identical. There was about a second between the pit stop time and the actual pit road delta that they had. So it wasn't a penalty for Andre that cost him all that time. So not really sure what the problem has been for that number 99.
Not sure either. It may have just been a mistake on the in-lap trying to get onto pit road. So that may be the issue that we've been seeing for Andrej Rajkovic, why he is so far down in the order at the moment. We've been keeping a close eye on the James King George Gruber battle. Gruber has been pulling out that gap. He's got 2 seconds now of an advantage, but behind that, Marcus Niskanen and Diego Jimenez working together at the moment, 8th and 9th. Niskanen, we've been saying his championship has been alive by a small thread, Randy, but it's been how Niskanen has been a top 5, top 10 finisher so regularly this season across all disciplines. He hasn't been a set the world alight, get a podium, get a victory.
And in some ways, that's almost, almost more impressive. Some drivers will have very specific specialties that you'll see, but one of the big things that always impresses me is those drivers that can come into just about any different car on any different style of track, and they can be at least competitive. That's one of the marks I generally feel as being a very, very good and solid driver. So for Niskanen, yeah, he may not be in it for the championship, but for a series that prides itself on variety and doing a lot of different things over the course of the year, just being able to do those things so consistently and so much better than everyone else, even maybe compared to some of his championship rivals that have had some of those big races that they managed to pull off the win and to maximize the points. If I'm Niskanen, I think I have to feel really good about that, as Diego Jimenez Ormilla just lets him slip by.
Yeah, very, very telling. A lot of drivers as well being invited to the Champions Charity event, which will be a very important event come the end. It is the finale of the season, and that one is for the Mario Andretti Cup bragging rights between all of the regions. So the likes at the moment, when you look at the 4 regions, would be Josh Nowak, Blake Reynolds, Mike Kelly and Pete Harrod. They would all be fighting it out with the likes of Challoner, Riley Thompson, Timu Toika, maybe even drivers like Christopher Norton, who would all come out of the woodworks and say, okay, we are top 3 material, we can do it in all these vehicles, we're going to fight it out now for the big holy grail, the Mario Andretti Cup. And to get that, and seeing how that has expanded, Randy, from what was just a Pacific region 1 year ago, how do you feel that the Majors expansion has maybe got more people involved with trying out different vehicles and actually falling in love with different vehicles?
I think it's been very good. Majors has been, very popular. I know that, of course, some regions, with depending on the car and track combinations, will struggle in a lot of ways. But, overall, I think it's been a pretty successful experiment. It's good to see. It's good to see people getting a variety of these sorts of cars and tracks and, running more than just their GTE cars or just an NASCAR vehicles or whatever it is they may just typically race, be it roadside or oval side. So it's good to see the variety, and it's good to see a series doing something different, considering a lot of series are just going, okay, guys, we're going to have an LMP1 class, we're going to have an LMP2 class, we're going to have a GTE car, and we're going to run it Spa and Coda and Le Mans and Sebring, and we're going to call it such and such, and we're going to have a fantastic championship.
Yes, it sometimes does get a little bit predictable at times, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it is something that just has to be curbed down a little bit. James Ewens, for example, has actually lost a position over the last couple of laps to Eric Mickey. He was a full 1.2 seconds slower over the course of that last lap, so that's a change then. 11th now is Mickey, and 12th goes James Ewens, with Brenton O'Brien now just 1.2 seconds back off of this one. But it seems at the moment a little bit of space being given to drivers. I just saw Trevor Pavrovsky in front of Andres Slisans get a big wiggle coming off of the cutting, as we have seen 2 or 3 times from drivers so far in this event. Yeah, and we're going to see it more than that. The cutting is one of those corners that you're going to see all those troubles. Just you sort of come up the hill, and just as you come up the hill, it kind of flattens out, and there's a couple awkward bumps, and if you're just offline just a little bit, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. And then, oh, by the way, if you pick the throttle up just a hair too quickly, you're going to be spinning up those rear tires. So a lot of little issues around this place, which we typically expect to see, and seeing people get a little bit of oversteer coming out of, say, the cutting or Forest Elbow really is just sort of par for the course of this place. It's you have to be comfortable getting the car all out of shape there, because you are going to at some point mess that corner up. You are certainly going to mess that corner up in the no cautions then so far over the course of this event. I've seen a few cautions in a lot of series. I think that the cautions factor hasn't played a major role here in this race, and sometimes that's what has made Bathurst so very, very interesting, as Jan Letzver runs very wide through turn 2, once again letting David H. Baker take a lap, and not necessarily a position away. But we have
Andre Silsons gets a big slide off the final corner.
Wow, so Sleesans, hello, getting a bit of power down, trying to get through the final corner.
He got it going in.
They got it going in, but I completely missed that, Randy. But my goodness, you do not want to be putting that power down too often like that, especially when you burn the rear tires up.
Yeah, and especially once you get a little bit sideways, because if those rear tires aren't stuck and you pick that throttle up, you're gonna pick up just nothing but oversteer. He did a good job being patient with the throttle. A lot of drivers will try to somewhat control the slide with a little bit of throttle control, and in these cars, that can almost be a bit of a death wish in terms of getting the back end stepped out and then picking the throttle up. That's oftentimes a good way to put yourself in the wall. But some drivers starting to get some issues as they now start to cycle through their second set of tires here. We're already pretty much halfway through this second stint. This one's pretty much flown through.
It certainly has done, and for Sleesans, it couldn't be any more slower, and that's because Eric Mickey, is tucked up underneath, trying to get a top 10 position on the brakes through Brock's Skyline and down towards the dipper, left, right, and then the big difficult left, which everyone seems to struggle with. Then the small peak right, another left, right, before you hit the brakes and hopefully get it stopped for that left-hander. It seems that there's been a vehicle that has had himself a 90-degree moment a little bit earlier on in the lap, because I did see tire tracks come up on the surface, and that's another thing that comes up. iRacing dynamic track, Randy.
Oh, it's so great, especially, you know, here. I mean, luckily for these guys, it's a relatively cold circuit, so it's not going to be too much of an issue, but you're still going to have some rubber being put down onto the racetrack. The dynamic track, absolutely fantastic in what it's done. What'd you see?
I saw a car go off right in front of Andre Sleesans and go an absolute mile straight through. I couldn't quite see who it was, so I have to rewind the tape, but I saw massive, massive tire tracks going into the
Sleesans has troubles at the last corner.
Oh, it was Joseph Ringrose, and then Sleesans running into his own troubles at the final corner and drops himself a couple of positions. So everybody seemingly running into issues. So for Andre Sleesans, he gets to the final corner, he just ran it too deep.
Yeah, he does. We're seeing what happened to Ringrose here. I think he had some issues coming down Forest Elbow, and then he did certainly going down Conrad straightaway. Seemed to be all over the place as he worked his way through. Where did this incident happen? Potentially down to the chase. We'll see what happened to this number 830 car, and then we'll check back in with Sleesans as his incident. Oh man, I just seen now what happened to this 830. Huge incident down at the chase. And now as we go to Sleesans, he just sneaks right on past that Red Bull car. We'll see what exactly happened to him as we'll ride on board with Sleesans. Don't even need to change the replay. Nice how well they sync up. Just going into the final corner, we just saw him get this big bite of oversteer here. This time it's the exact opposite. He just plows through that final turn.
He just plowed through it, couldn't get it stopped, and as such, this is why the vehicle is loved and hated by so many people, Randy, because it has this massive amount of torque oversteer, which makes it a nightmare on corner exits, but at the same time, it can have horrendous understeer, which makes the vehicle almost impossible to drive for people picking it up for the first time.
Yeah, especially if you're used to a lot of GT cars, which have, you know, tons of front downforce and, you know, the weight distribution is, of course, more in the center to rear of the car. You know, you pick up one of these and it's like driving a tank. It's so similar to driving a stock car around a racetrack, just how heavy it is with how much power it's got, that some people just flat out cannot do it. And I'll be honest, I'm one of them. I've always struggled trying to wheel the V8 supercars around places. There was a phase where I was sort of almost okay at it back in 2012, 2013, running in some of the V8 America stuff, but just nothing I could really get my head around, especially compared to, say, driving some of the GT cars. Some of the stuff I was okay in. The Mustang FR500 is probably the easiest and, you know, semi-closest thing to train yourself up to running these cars, just because it's got a little bit of too much power based on the amount of tires that it has. But there's really nothing on the sim that prepares you for running these things on a road course. And even the NASCAR cars, which are close, I mean, the Xfinity car makes something like 600 horsepower or something, which is comparable to these guys, and the truck is somewhat similar. I'm not sure if this is really a good car to train yourself up to get into these things. It's almost like racing the IndyCar and Oval. You just start to have to climb into it and like, okay, here's a ton of downforce, go 220 miles an hour.
That's the sort of thing you do have to deal with. So when you get yourself in, it's a trial by fire for a lot of people, and that's what sometimes can be a big put-off of driving one of these vehicles. But here are probably 32 drivers, Randy, who have trialed by fire, with one exception being Brenton O'Brien. And I think that there has been a lot that has gone on. Let's keep an eye on Brenton O'Brien, actually, because he is tucked with James Ewens. This is the battle for 11th position on the road. That gap was half a second. That's just extended over the mountain, though.
Well, they were side by side at one point going up to the cutting, and Mr. Brenton O'Brien lost out in that fight as they worked their way back down, getting ready to go down the hill. So the gap kind of spreads itself out back a little bit. So Brenton's sort of losing this trip up and over the hill as they work themselves back down, but you can see Ewens really struggling, locking up in a lot of places, especially going down towards Forest Elbow. And I think what's happening is I think Ewens might be a little bit better from, say, turn 2 going up and then down the hill, only until Forest Elbow. And I think Brenton might have the legs on him, or might just be a little bit better through the rest of the lap, which is the part of the lap that sets you up really to be able to make a pass. So for Brenton, you see down into the chase, I think he's reeled that gap down and in. You see Ewens locking up again in that high-speed braking zone. 43 car is struggling with those front tires going to those high-speed braking zones.
And he almost just chopped the nose. They're almost going to make contact in front. O'Brien sends it, licks a stamp, and continues to go too wide. Can he get the move sorted at Hell's Corner? You have to feel like he can on the brakes, and he does. But there's a cutback coming from the torque freak man of Ewens. He was wise to it, and now up the mountain is going to remain too wide. I was looking at Pavrovsky and also Mickey going too wide. Pavrovsky holding that off despite being a lap down. But look at this, Ewens on the outside, much later on the brakes as Brenton O'Brien. Can he check it up? He can. Position sorted.
Yeah, well done there by Brenton, really showing his experience off in this car, knowing when he can actually get aggressive and send a move like that and be able to make it stick. A lot of drivers, they'll try to be aggressive in these cars, but they don't know when the time is right. Brenton did a beautiful job right there setting that move up and timed it absolutely to perfection to pick up that spot as they now go up and over the hill. Let's see what that 384 car can do. We said Ewens might have the legs going up and then back down the hill, and to be honest, I think Ewens has been able to reel the gap back down and in just a little bit, but just as I say that, he gets it all sorts of wrong at the top of the hill and is still sliding all over the place. Brenton stretched a couple of car lengths just in the last couple of turns, and that's Brenton. I think you can officially more or less say job done on picking up that spot. Now he's going to set his sights on Eric Mickey, who's just a few car lengths ahead, dealing with some lap traffic.
A lot of lap traffic as well. One Trevor Pavrovsky, and in front of him is a certain gentleman, John Roberts, in the Booze Ted machine. So Roberts lets Pavrovsky go, and I think Roberts may be in a little bit of damage trying to run through up forward. I'm not sure that had all the power in the world on it, so I think Gentleman John definitely driving like a gentleman at the moment, a gentleman on a Sunday drive, the one that you don't want to catch. Normally the sort of person, Randy, you'd say that has a caravan on the back.
Yeah, really sort of is. This isn't the sort of, this isn't your typical Sunday drive racetrack, especially in these cars, but you know, sometimes in a lot of ways, if you go out there and take a race like this, approach it as if it were a Sunday drive, just as calm and cool and collected as you can, that's the best way to get yourself some good results.
It is, and well, Gentleman John currently in 24th position, up 5 positions so far for his work today. He's got Jared Morgan behind by a good 30 plus seconds, and nowhere near Enrico Leonhardt either, so certainly out of the loop as things stand. But I want to keep an eye on Andre Rajkovic at the moment, because he's got 2 bits of traffic himself that he's dealing with, and this is the battle for 21st position, Randy. This is Yambrani versus Cordell Cologne, both 1 lap down, very heavy over the curb goes Cologne. You've got to be careful of that, especially for the slowdown penalty. And I tell you what, slowdown down the mountain is probably the toughest slowdown penalty I think you will ever have to serve.
Yeah, it is. It's almost one of those that in some ways you need to wait till you get down Forest Elbow and then start strolling down the hill in towards the chase in order to get it served. I know a lot of drivers will make that mistake, thinking they have to basically just check up immediately to get that slowdown covered, and they'll check up in awkward positions. If you just wait a little bit, you can generally get the thing served and, you know, let everyone buy it relatively cleanly. As positions start picking up and changing back and forth, that number 50 is getting mighty aggressive, I think, trying to make it a couple spots in the same lap. Not quite going to be able to, though. He closes onto the rear, that 353 of Jan Brony, as they head down in towards the final corner. And they're going to go side by side. 50 of Cordell Cologne, still thinking about making that move, still looking very aggressive in that black, white, and red car.
And moves to the inside, gets superior traction off the exit. And thank you very much on the brakes, which Jan Brony's better at. Got to be careful. Rajkovic wants to make a way through, and Rajkovic is going to get one and is going to box Jan Brony in, which I think is going to mean that Jan can't quite make the move. So it seems that Rajkovic will go around the outside. He should pick up the position, which Brony does concede then. So now Cordell Cologne's got to let through Rajkovic in such a way here, Randy, that he loses zero time at all. And in fact, Brony runs a little bit wide. I think he's under no issues at all to let that through.
Yeah, he definitely is now as they work their way up here. And Cologne's going to let that through as well. Does a good job just lifting off the throttle and letting him flip through in that Black Rifle Coffee Company machine. That number 50 going to tuck in here behind Andre. Maybe try to learn a little bit, pick up what he's doing, pick up a little bit of speed. But Andre's already starting to stretch that gap back out, as they're basically within about 4 to 5 laps of cars coming down pit road for the second round of pit stops. Of course, a couple of cars we expect to be pretty late, such as Mr. Brenton O'Brien. Likely won't be coming down until about lap 55, lap 54, based off when we saw it.
Well, I don't think he'll be that far out, Randy, but I certainly think lap 50 is, or even lap 49, wouldn't be too bad of a run for Brenton O'Brien. But look actually at O'Brien. He's caught Eric Mickey up. He's within a second now. And Eric, again, very good on top of the mountain. Very, very solid when it comes to planting that vehicle. When it comes to the straight line, it seems that Brenton O'Brien is able to pull that back. Down the mountain they go, and watch how much more confidence Brenton O'Brien has. You talk about Australians in sim racing. You don't get through sim racing in Australia if you can't do this track.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like racing Australia. You have to be, in order to really prove yourself, to get to the top level of Australian motorsport, you have to be able to do this race in these cars. So it's sort of an iconic thing for the Australian sim races, this being one of their proving grounds. It's one of the big points, of course, for any of the Australian championship drivers, especially running in their big championship V8 Scops, to be able to run strong in that championship in these cars, especially to win this race here at Bathurst that they run every single year. That's sort of the feather in the cap, I think, for the top Australian drivers, at least as it currently sits in 2018.
That was proven with a surprise winner of V8 Scops' Bathurst 1000 when Trick Sim Sports took the title with Forzan El Nabi and Ross Rizzo. But out of pit road actually does come a vehicle. That's Gabriel Rouche, who's just come down in and made his second stop at the end of lap 38. Early for that stop. That's just before the half distance. So an early stop, trying to get the short stop out of the way, Randy?
Maybe a little bit. I'm not sure how long that's going to last on him, though, because if memory serves me right, Gabriel was one of the first cars to come down pit road the first stop as well, if I just take a peek. And he came down pit road on lap number 20. I may be misremembering. It was lap 22. There's someone else who came down pit road a little bit earlier than the rest of the field. That's who I'm thinking of. So a little bit early. Maybe he's trying to get the short stop out of the way now, but you know, I've always been a fan, especially in these sorts of races. You know, Gabriel wasn't really surrounded by that many cars on the racetrack. I'd rather just save that short stop till the very end rather than doing now. Granted, it's a little bit easier with a race like this, Jake, because you're not having to, you know, you're not trying to set up that strategy and that fuel fill against the clock. You know exactly how many laps of fuel you're going to need, 81, so shouldn't be too much of an issue for Gabriel, but still an interesting point doing the short stop at this phase of the race.
I think he wants to apply that pressure to Nicky Team. He was 12 seconds back coming onto the lane, and I think he wants to make Nicky Team sweat when it comes to this race. Put some pressure on Dansky Jr., shall we say. So he knows that he's got to try and get himself back into this one to put some pressure on Nicky Team, who's basically just had a small drive on his own. Here comes Brenton O'Brien, though, on Eric Mickey, looking to the inside of the chase, had to back out of it, as Eric Mickey didn't really leave a car's width there to go down the inside, slides it through the chase chicane, and now O'Brien's got a chance at the final corner. He did this, remember, to James Ewan. Will he think about it again? He thought about it. Oh, he had to back out of it and moved straight across to the right. Little bit dangerous there from O'Brien, especially when you don't know the braking distances that Mickey's going to have. Maybe send one at turn 1. He's going to try it up to turn 2.
Yep, we're watching this battle right now. Sorry for that replay, guys. I was keeping a half an eye on Nicky Team because I thought I heard him catch the wall at the cutting. The car in front of him actually caught the wall that was last down. Actually may have popped the motor, but as the driver well down the order. So we're going to keep an eye on this battle here between Brenton O'Brien and Eric Mickey, nearly side by side into turn 2, but nothing going just yet. But you mentioned that maybe Roos may be wanting to give the pressure to Nicky Team. Well, that short stop took 8 seconds out of what was the full stop for the both of them last time through. So that 12-second gap will be somewhere in the realm of about 3 to 4 seconds after they come off of pit road. Question is, though, is Nicky going to realize what Roos has done, and how will he allow that to pressure him? And Nicky has enough experience that he should know when he comes off of pit road that Roos has taken that short stomp and shouldn't be too flustered by that gap when he comes off the road, off the lane.
Let's not forget as well, fresh tires will be on that vehicle as well. There's no double stinting that you find. You get fresh rubber, you go out there and you push. And I think that's what Gabriel Roos is going to be thinking about here as well. That undercut on Nicky Team, who's doing 207 flats at the moment out on track. And that last few laps that he's done, that was actually half a second slower than what he had been doing, which was some good mid to low 206s, some very good times from Nicky Team. And I think that maybe that's something that Gabriel Roos is trying to emulate, as he did himself some mid 206s and was struggling on 207s towards the end of his stop. So I think they're very similar in pace. It's just going to be a case of how much can Gabriel Roos get out of the tires to pull himself back to Nicky Team, Rand.
Well, if he's going to pressure Nicky Team, he has to start doing the sort of times that Nicky is doing. And, you know, Nicky's done a fantastic job. We saw through about the first 15 laps or so of the race, and Team Utoika stretch out this 20-second lead that has pretty much been stagnant the last 15 laps or so. So Nicky Team's done a good job equalizing his overall lap speed with the 46 at Team Utoika. Granted, I think Timo's taken a little bit off the top and is more or less just running around this place at 97-98%. Could probably find 3 to 4 tenths if he really tried. But still, the fact that Nicky has equalized that pace when at one point we were seeing Timu lap this place a second and some change quicker every single trip around the racetrack shows that 277 has just gotten faster and faster as this track has sort of worn in, and really equalized the pace due to the second stint.
Half distance has been score complete at Mount Panorama as James King comes out of pit road. He pitted from 6th position and comes out alongside Peter Verstrael, and Verstrael will make his way through. So King with a little bit of traffic to deal with as Team Utoika starts lap 42 then of 81 at Mount Panorama. Nicky Team decides also to stay out on circuit, a long gap back to Kurt Crum in 3rd position. As things stand, as we hit the second pit stop cycle out on circuit. Here's Cordo Cologne once again, though, trying to get past Jan Bernie. Underneath, he is tucked once more, thinking about how do I make that move. He lost the position. He wants to get it back again. So a ding-dong scrap. P21, P22. Can you get it on the brakes? Cordo Cologne is definitely not the best when it comes to the brakes compared to Jan Bernie here, Rand.
Yeah, he might have the legs on top end, just maybe having that car a little bit flatter from the trim. Of course, there's no wing adjustments on these cars. The wing is actually stagnant. It's the only way you can really adjust the aero balance is really with the ride heights, more or less. And potentially even, want to get really technical spring packages to how that car will actually squat when you get that downforce on the rear end. But yeah, you're right. He just doesn't have that sort of ability and confidence getting on the brakes, going down that straightaway in towards the chase, because he was nearly touching the rear end of that red Ford number 353 going down into the chase, and he gave him pretty much 2 car lengths before they ever got to the apex of it.
Well, he gave himself 2 car lengths, and but he couldn't really use any of those car lengths at all. So Cordell Cologne, he's got another opportunity if he thinks about it, where he can make some moves back. Can't do it into the cutting. He'll have to play the patience game a little while longer. Brenton O'Brien, though, still in that scrap. Now it's a top 10 scrap with Eric Mickey. This is for 8th position on the road. Of course, we are in that cycle. And Brenton O'Brien, I think he'll be happy actually sitting with Eric Mickey. He's where he wants to be on track. He's probably trying to push to get to George Gruber and James King in the long run of this one. And if he's staying behind Eric Mickey at this stage, Randy, that's more fuel for the cause.
Yeah, and and especially keep in mind, Brenton O'Brien pretty much went full save, full fuel save, not fuel full save, on that opening stint. So I mean, Brenton, most drivers came down lap number 20, 21, maybe 22. He didn't actually hit pit road, if I could find it here, until a handful of laps after everyone else came down on towards the lane. He actually came down on lap number 25. So an extra few laps of fuel in the tank for Brenton O'Brien. If he can do that through all 3 stints, he's going to have a 9-lap difference in terms of amount of fuel filled over the course of the race compared to everyone else. So for Brenton, he's going to be mighty, mighty happy with himself just sitting behind Eric Mickey right here, because now he has one of 2 choices. He either continues on his strategy of can he, do that same sort of fuel saving going in towards the end of this stint, or do they just come down and do a little bit of a short fill right here, right now? And it's not even a short fill in terms of he can essentially, by having that 3 extra laps that he saved on that first stint, he can come down with everyone else now, and it's effectively a short fill with really no punishment for coming down with it.
Yeah, and look who's just behind this pack, though. It's Gabriel Roos, who's trying to put the pressure on Nicky Team. The last thing he wanted was vehicles to try and get past, and I think if Brenton O'Brien understood that, he would try and get through as quickly as possible. In comes Cordell Cologne to make the stop, but now we're Kiva Kinetic trying to get past the Evolution Racing Team. So here comes the money move, potentially for Gabriel Roos, struggling in the draft, and now we'll have to sit at the pace that Brenton O'Brien was doing, which was 207.2s. There was a 206 flat that last time by from Gabriel Roos. He has the pace, but now he's got to find the move, and look at the run.
Yeah, it's pretty much a great run here, but Brenton's going to be aggressive, trying to hold on to this with Eric Mickey, and especially just wants to cut off and stay single file going up the hill. So I know Brenton knows that Roos has already come on down towards pit road and been off of it, but Brenton wants to do everything he can to not lose time compared to that car of Eric Mickey out in front of him, and is going to fight to keep himself single file.
He is, as they head themselves up the side of the mountain. McPhillamy Park, this fantastic bottoming down left-hander, and now they head themselves down said mountain once more. Roos desperate to find a way through, and certainly has found that he's got the pace to gain positions. He's now just got to find himself a bit more pace to get himself past at this stage, past the dipper. Now looking towards the forest elbow. Mickey, all shades of struggling here, and that's been the key difference. Eric Mickey does not like going down the mountain. As such, Brenton O'Brien straight back into play. Gabriel Roos wanting to get in on this as well and get past both of them as quickly as possible. This is hurting him in terms of his strategy with Nicky Team. Team will be expecting about a 1-minute pit stop. He hasn't come down yet, nor has Teemu Toika, nor has, say, Kurt Crum, who's actually just hit the lane right now.
And Brenton O'Brien just picked that spot up on Eric Mickey, so this is going to be beautiful situation for Gabriel Roos, because maybe he's expecting these guys to come down pit road. No, but now Roos can deal with the slower of the 2 first. Down the inside, no, he's not going to send it. That surprises me, as that driver works himself now down the front straightaway, still tucked into the slipstream, as we're really in towards the tail end of the second stint now, and expect these guys that have yet to come down pit road, probably in the next lap or so, to start hitting the lane. But for Roos, this is just a terrible situation for him, Jake. Like you said, he wants the advantage on Mr. Nicky Team, but being stacked up behind these lappers, even though these guys aren't going so slow. I mean, look at, Brenton O'Brien, he just did a 206.9. Compare that to Nicky Team. What kind of times has Nicky been running? He's been doing 207.1s, 207.3s. So for Roos, it's not a terrible situation for him right now being trapped here, but it's not exactly a great one either, especially now he's trapped behind Mickey, sort of struggling for speed.
Yeah, he's certainly not gaining any time, but crucially he's not losing any either, as Roos still desperate to try and make that move, searches up Griffin's mount, which is a really difficult place to make a move. I do not suggest anyone making a move up there, or you end up maybe like Lauren Heinrich did in the ADAC Porsche Sim Racing Trophy. So that's going to be something just to keep an eye on then for Gabriel Roos. How will he manage to get past Mickey and get past Brenton O'Brien if he wants to try and challenge Nicky Team? At the moment, it seems that he is just unable to make anything happen when it comes to it, and he's been caught out by drivers wanting to go 100% long and trying to make stops as long and as fruitful as possible here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's going to be the big thing you really push for.
Leaders in.
So leaders in. Timu Toika on towards pit road. Likely going to be a scheduled stop from him. I wouldn't be surprised if Nicky Team follows suit. Of course, Nicky is actually, I think Nicky's already been on towards the lane. Just looking at what I'm seeing right now in terms of the gap. Actually, no, I take that back. He may have actually skipped it. So Nicky is currently our race leader with that pit stop from Mr. Timu Toika. So a lot of, let's say, probably colorful Twitch chat at the moment, as the 277 will likely log himself at least one lap led.
Oh, yes, and I think Nicky Team will be very, very happy with that. YouTube stream as well, let's not forget, he doubles down on everything that he does. He's being actually chased down a little bit here by Dave Walsh, who certainly has pace coming down the mountain, but you can see the slew behind us. Jared Morgan hits the wall behind, and that's a shame for Mr. Run almost every race in the championship right from the inception. He got turned, and turned very, very heavily there, Randy. That car that turned him was Treva Favroski for the second time today down the mountain.
Yep, just trying to find this car to get it up here on the replay. Also, Josh Wolf having issues going down the hill as well. So Jared Morgan getting himself caught up in a lot of trouble. Let's see, get a replay now on what exactly happened to this 96 as they go screaming down the hill through the dipper. Let's see, where does the contact actually come in? Oh, it's right there. And what's weird there is that that's not even a braking zone or anything, Jake. That's just sort of the 10 car being a little bit impatient almost.
Yeah, I think it is, as Nicky Team comes down onto pit road, takes his lap lead, but now will hand that one back over to Timu Toika once again. So pit stop window in full play. Eric Mickey, though, I think has run himself into an incident, potentially. No, he's come down and made his pit stop. So that's going to be telling then, because that released a certain Mr. Gabriel Roos, who is desperate to close down to that 277 team. Still stuck behind Brenton O'Brien. Tyres then have been changed then for Nicky Team. Only the fuel he is waiting on now to try and get himself back out and away once more. Just waiting to see if Team can get himself going for Gabriel Roos. He's making his way then after the chase, looking at the final corner. Team, of course, a long way forward in his box, started in 8th position, and has got himself all the way up to next second in this race. How long is Team going to wait? Answer is until now, and gets himself off of the lane. And look at where Gabriel Roos is in comparison. They're going to come out pretty much side by side when the power comes down. Brenton O'Brien's going to try and tuck into the toe. Nicky Team's not going to be happy about this. He's in a scrap for second, and Gabriel Roos will power through with the help of Brenton O'Brien.
Yep, but how nicely is Brenton going to play? Answer's going to be very nicely. He's going to get clear of Team and pull over to the left-hand side. Nicky's going to be wondering what in the world just happened, and that's going to be a full stop, I believe, from Nicky. Was it even a little bit longer than that? 45.2 minute and 4 spent on the lane. Compare that to everyone else, that's roughly in the ballpark. Of course, Gabriel Roos about 10 seconds quicker than that based on his fuel strategy. So Nicky should know what's up. He should kind of understand that there's a little fuel economy gaming being played here by Gabriel Roos, or at least a little bit of a fuel flow game being played here by Mr. Gabe Roos. So he should be aware of that and shouldn't really worry himself too much, because now the other thing that's going to be happening here is Gabriel has to stretch out a 10-second gap on a Nicky Team, in order to sort of equalize this. Because if he doesn't, and if Nicky just sort of sits right there right off the rear wing or a few car widths back, Nicky's just going to have himself a nice 8 to 9 second lead once this next stint comes to an end.
Jackie, he's got past me. He's not supposed to be doing that. He's got past me. That's what maybe Nicky Team could be saying as Gabriel Roos gets himself through in that position. But now it comes down to how good is Gabriel Roos on the fresh tyres. They will be up to date. Nicky Team, though, will be looking to put his times in. But, of course, he's got to find a way past Brenton O'Brien, who's not due in for another 3 laps yet, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the thing here for these guys is Brenton O'Brien, you know, going on this sort of alternate strategy, really setting himself up well, potentially pull off a finish. To be interesting to see where he comes out in comparison to everyone else, because now he's sort of in a situation where, you know, all the other cars are out on track. Maybe they came out around some slower traffic. He's come out surrounded by faster traffic, doesn't really need to worry about getting held up at all. And the thing is that Brenton really does have, you know, more or less the pace of a lot of these guys. Granted, Gabriel Roos just went out, put down a 2:05.9. Nicky Team, just this is going to be his first hot lap here, so we've not seen it just yet. But, you know, Brenton not being surrounded by slower traffic means he can pretty much go as fast as he can. You know, maybe does he have to deal with Nicky Team here when Nicky gets to him? Certainly, but that's not going to be something he's worried about, especially with his pit strategy. And, you know, he's really just worried about reeling in those cars on the other side of the racetrack at the moment.
Diego Jimenez has come down in and made a stop then on lap 47. It'll be a long while before he gets himself back out and away and racing once more. Andre Reikovic has fallen backwards a little bit further because George Gruber now is within a second, which is not what he was hoping for. So George Gruber all of a sudden now here, Randy. He's looking at 7th position off of Reikovic, who's been going backwards, and even further backwards in this event.
I think this has, I wonder if this is just the way he gets on a pit road. We talked about the pit entry here, Jake, being so difficult. The problem is every time I look, the pit stop times and the pit lane deltas for Andre Reikovic are right where they need to be. So I honestly think this number 99 car is just too passive getting through those, you know, couple little bends you have to go through getting on towards pit road. And I think he's throwing away 3 to 4 seconds getting onto the lane every single time, because without getting penalized or without taking a huge amount of fuel or screwing something else on pit road, I don't see where else Andre could be losing all this time at the end of every stint.
Well, I don't see it either, but Andre Reikovic, the facts don't lie. He is losing time and positions, which is definitely not what he wants to be doing for his race at the moment. So in a moment, we will get ourselves a top 10 rundown of things, how they stand after the second stops. Of course, we're still waiting on a said Brenton O'Brien to come down in and make his stop, but now he's got to be playing the defensive game against Nicky Team, who did a 2:06.4 that last time by and took half a second out of Gabriel Roos. So a fresh tyre element coming in for Nicky Team. That's what makes it worse for Gabriel Roos. He's got to do it on older tyres. He's got to break away.
Yeah, he does, and the thing that's nice is that Nicky has a little bit of slipstream help with Brenton O'Brien out in front of him right now. That said, as they get ready to go up the hill, Nicky's going to be on new tires with a slow car in front of him on old tires. So now Nicky has to somehow, some way, maybe slot himself up the inside of Brenton going into the cutting. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near close enough to do that. So now the question is, does Brenton hold up Nicky? Looks like through the cutting, the answer might end up being yes. As Brenton makes a mistake, and this Red Bull car is going to get stacked up behind the Evolution Racing Team manager of Brenton O'Brien.
He is, and it's also stacking up Dawson Brock as well, who is lap traffic on the rear, which is not what Nicky Team wants to see in his rear view mirrors either. So Nicky needs to find a way past Brenton O'Brien and Stat, the slow car in front of Jan Letsiva. I'm going to say no, that's Sylvain Maillot, who is blinking away as things stand. So Brenton O'Brien gets out of the way, does Maillot. That's another little hold up, which was not forthcoming and that was not wanted by a certain Nicky Team. Remember O'Brien's race here, he's trying to get to the likes of Gruber and King and Reikovic. That's where he wants to be heading himself come the end of this event. So there's ultimately going to be things that's going on. It's not like Brenton O'Brien is the slowest man in the world here, Randy.
Yeah, he definitely isn't as they work their way through. His pace is actually very good, all things considered, considering that I'd say the drivers he's around are going to have the pace advantage on him regardless, and those drivers are on brand new fresh tires. It's not like Brenton, we're not calling Brenton bad by any means, but he's just sort of outclassed at the moment around the cars he's around as Brenton comes down on towards the lane here. Actually gets it a little bit wrong, finds the dirt. Think that Maybe it was a little bit scripted in the way Brenton generally likes to do it, though, but they're not your smoothest entry onto the pit road at Bathurst, but I suppose it works. And now we get to see where does Brenton come off of pit road, and now can Nicky Team reel in Gabriel Roos, as Nicky Team just did a 207.8 to Gabriel Roos's 206.6 that lap. That's how much the traffic hurts you going up and down the hill.
It certainly does. Brenton O'Brien's got to be careful. If he has gone too aggressive, he may be caught out by the stewards for an unsafe pit entry. That would be a 15-second stop and hold added to his box time. So we will see where he comes out. He was with Eric Mickey when he came, or when Mickey came in. Short fill comes into play, so O'Brien out and away. He'll be with Marcus Niskanen, who's just gone through, along with David H. Baker. The next vehicle will be Diego Jimenez. He'll be clearly in front of that, so maybe a half and half. Not a full short field there, Randy, but certainly a half short field.
Yeah, it sort of was. It's sort of a similar situation we're seeing Gabriel Roos do. 34.7 seconds for Brenton O'Brien. Compare that to 35.1 seconds for Gabriel Roos. So a couple drivers sort of doing the same thing. Of course, with Brenton, though, like you just said, he has the advantage of coming down pit road something like 7 or 8 laps later than Gabriel came down pit road. So in his little fight, you know, you pretty much picked it perfectly. He doesn't need to do 2 20-some-odd lap stints now. He just came down pit road. There's only 32, 33 laps in the race. He can just do a 16-lap stint and then a 17-lap stint. That's going to be good not only in short fuel fill times, Jake. It's going to be very good for him in terms of just having nice, easy short runs on the tires. He's not going to have to push those tires that extra half dozen laps in order to get the fuel out of it. So very well done by Brenton, and I think it set himself up beautifully. Just that one stint of really pushing himself hard has really paid off in dividends.
Teemu Tuikka then leads this event on lap 50 out of 81. Just 32 laps to go. Gabriel Roos is currently in second position, trying to fight off Nicky Team in third. It's Kurt Crum in fourth, with Andrei Rajkovic now under pressure in the battle for fifth place. But look at this one here, because George Gruber has pulled that gap down to under 0.2 of a second on the brakes into the chase. And for the moment at least, Gruber just trying to find a bit of weakness, but his weakness is his own wiggle out of the chase, and as such 0.3 go a-begging.
Yep, as they work their way now through the final corner, and Gruber seems to be throwing a little bit more speed away there, so maybe not being as comfortable as he would like as they work their way through. Also keeping tabs on Roos and Nicky Team. Roos had another 0.3 of a second advantage that last trip around the racetrack, once again dipping into the 205s. That's the power that the light fill can give you as they work their way deeper and deeper into this race. There's only a pit stop left to play for everybody.
A little look there to the inside from George Gruber, trying to get into the mirrors of Andrei Rajkovic and not quite finding what he wanted to. Let's go on board then with George Gruber in this battle with Andrei Rajkovic as we take you RaceSpotTV Fan Immersion. one. And George Gruber, big mistake just then. Coming out to Hell's Corner. He will not be able to get the move on Andre Rajkovic this time live, and it has been all to Snauki at the top of this race. Timu Toika leads this event by 23 seconds over Gabriel Roos in second, who has got to pull out 12 seconds before his next stop because he has pulled out half of that gap. Nicky T making a mistake. Past viewer in plan immersion. That's now 6 seconds out on the track. John Krupp is in 4th position with Andre Rajkovic in 5th and George Gruber in 6th. All of them closing in together. James King is currently in 7th position with Marcus Niskanen on an island on his own in 8th place, being chased down by Briggs O'Brien in 9th and Eric Mickey 12 seconds down the order in 10th. The moves and shakers up on your field right now. Brenton O'Brien, clearly your biggest mover and shaker, started dead last in 33rd. He is up a magnificent 24 positions to get himself into 9th. So, for the moment at least here on RaceSpotTV, brought to you on iRacing Live, Randy Cheneth, Jake Sperry. We're going to tell you everything that you need to know as we run ourselves towards the final pit stop then of the day and get ourselves over towards home. For the moment at least though, we also need to keep an eye on a number 21 car of Pete Harrod. He's on the recovery drive, an instant on lap 1, put him a lap down, but now he's looking to try and get past Petter Verstraal. And we've had an instant off of turn 1, potentially, Randy, I'm not too sure.
Round, as I still had my mic muted coming off the little break. And I think the 96 of Jared Morgan may have gone around coming through turn number 1.
He just did a full 360, gets himself through turn 1, struggles on the power, the vehicle snaps on him, and he just does a Roman Grosjean. We do a sick donut, back on track and keeps racing.
A bit of MLG quickscope 360 shenaniganry there, but Jared Morgan gets himself back out there on the racetrack, cruising forward as fights up and down the field are going to be pretty much ebbing and flowing still. I will say Gabriel Roos has done a brilliant job on this sort of short field strategy, Jake, of pulling out in front of Nicky Team, and even after Nicky's been able to get himself clean air, he's opened up a 7-second gap. And remember, the delta that we are sort of expecting Gabriel to have to get is going to be somewhere in the realm of about 10 seconds. And he's coming very close to doing that. Even if he doesn't, come out ahead of Nicky going into this final stop, he's going to be in a very good position to keep Nicky honest going through that final stint. But it'll be important to remember, Nicky will have the advantage of the lighter fuel tank going into the final stint that Gabriel currently has right now.
And you talk about what makes Bathurst so good. One of the things is how fuel has come into play in the finishes. How often do Australian iRacers and sim racers say, fuel minus 100, you're not going to make it? That's because fuel is massive here at Mount Panorama. It's a 6-kilometer circuit, Randy. And because of that, that fuel number becomes so important, almost like any other endurance race.
And the other thing that makes this track great in terms of fuel strategy is the effect that fuel actually has on the balance of the car. Just getting that bit of weight off the car really does make a big change for these big heavy cars. It's not often you see a big difference between a even a half tank and a full tank, but the way this car basically ebbs and flows going up and then back down the hill, you really feel every single effect of every gallon of fuel that you burn off. What'd you see?
I saw Andre Rajkovic actually getting passed at turn 2 by George Gruber. This was about 2/3, if not now a whole lap ago. So Andre Rajkovic back down into 6th position and not finding any luck. And in fact, he finds even less luck at Murray's as he goes straight on, unable to slow the car down. Yeah,
so maybe struggling here a little bit is Andre Rajkovic as he brings himself on to start lap number 55.01. The clock's back here. See what exactly happened to Andre at the start of this lap. See him ahead of George Gruber on the replay in towards turn 1. George doesn't slot the move up the inside here. He's going to wait until it gets up to the top of the hill. See one car, I believe, coming off pit road that's laps down, as well as one of the bombshell cars out in front as well. And this is going to be where things go sour for Andre as he pulled over to the left-hand side. Gruber pulls up. Well, that's pretty much going to be job done. Not much you can do when someone slots it down the inside of you at turn 2.
No, nothing you can do at all, and as such, he's back into 6th position.
And lost a ton of ground.
He has lost a ton of ground, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you someone, though, who has been surprisingly quick over the course of this race, and that's been Dave Walsh in the 842. He was right at the back of the field. He was also caught up in Pete Harrod's accident, but he has absolutely outclassed Pete Harrod in terms of recovering this one, because he's back into 12th position right now.
Oh no, just see you say that, he finds the wall.
And that's that. I'm sorry.
And I'm pretty sure he just Alt F4'd.
I'm pretty sure that's a curse of the commentator as well. I'm pretty sure that is Dave Walsh. I'm off his Christmas list after cursing him as such.
Well done.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But it seems then that Pete Harrod will get another position out of this, and all of a sudden, that gap which Team Utoika has, which we were talking about of seeing Pete Harrod right down in 32nd odd position, Pete Harrod's looking at a top 15 here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, last time we really talked about Pete Harrod, I mean, we've mentioned him a couple times, but he was somewhere around, I think, 22nd, 23rd, and I said something along the realm of he's at least going to get a half dozen more spots, if not more. He's since currently running P number 16, and when that eventually cycles itself through and he gets that spot from Dave Walsh, because Walsh has currently scored 2 laps ahead of him, he's going to be running in that 15th spot. So it's not out of the realm of possibility with, what, 25 laps to go that we could see 5 or 6 more cars potentially find trouble. Because, you know, in a 3-hour race like this, Jake, you know, we've been talking about these drivers getting to phases of the race that are going to be difficult. We talked about the opening stint being on the cold tires. We talked about that first time coming down pit road, how difficult it can be coming back out on the racetrack with cold tires, with a heavy race car, and reassimilating to yourself of what that feels like after that first hour of racing. Now we're getting to that point where mental fatigue is really going to be starting to set in, and mistakes can be coming through for that as well. So even in just such a short 3-hour race, most tracks, you know, most of those effects aren't really, you know, that valid, but some tracks, the mental fatigue is so serious, it can be so difficult just getting yourself into a rhythm. All of those little phases really do play a part here at the mountain.
And that's P14 for Pete Harrod, as he's just breezed by David Van Broek into that position, and he's only a couple of seconds down the road from James Ewens. And look at the lap times Pete Harrod's doing. 2:06.4 on his last time by. Ewens did a 2:07.5. Again, Ewens a 2:07.9 compared to Harrod's 2:06.5. Pete Harrod has got the burners on as Sleesans comes in to make his final stop then of the day here on what is lap 56. So there's another position that comes up. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Pete Harrod's trying to save as much as he can, because remember, that's a Brit on an oval at Myrtle Beach. That's going to be a challenge.
Oh, it definitely is. It's not going to be great for Mr. Pete Harrod. You know, not a lot of the UK drivers do much of the oval racing. It can be really difficult, especially when it comes to trying to set that car up and make adjustments to it. It's sort of like, what in the world do I do? What's crossweight? What's stagger? What are all these words? What do they mean? And how do they really affect the car? It can be mighty difficult for someone, especially if they don't have the right support structure and maybe don't have the right connections to really work that self up for them. That said, all those people from that first stint, Jake, remember we talked about people coming down pit road around lap 14, 15, 16, 17. As Harrod, I think, actually just made a little kiss with the wall up at Skyline pretty much. A little bit of damage on the left side of the car that I don't think was there before. So that's not going to be great for Pete's recovery run here into the final stint. But all those drivers that came down and did the short fill earlier and be coming down pit road right here, they're going to be good to the end. What'd you see?
I saw a car in the wall. I think it was lap traffic, and it was right by the Gruber and Crum battle for 4th position on the road. This was just out of turn number 2, so we'll get an eye out then on who that was. That was Jan Letzver, pretty much Day Dunning. He had a lot of damage on the rear of the vehicle. He just pulls it into the wall and says, yeah, that's pretty much going to be my day done. And I think Sleesans actually has been on pit road for an incredibly long amount of time. I think he may have had an incident, Randy.
We'll check here in a moment. We're currently seeing this incident with the number 80 that you saw down at turn number 2. See exactly what happened. That car definitely worse than where coming into this. And, well, he basically slings that car into turn 2 like he had all the grip in the world. And it didn't end up panning out. But now we look at Andre Sleesans, someone who was a part of this race early on, really was a factor. He's been on pit road for 2.5 minutes pretty much, so this is pretty much day done for Andre Sleesans. He's still in the car, potentially still getting repairs, but you know, he's just losing so much time. That number 92 is just going to be losing all of it. And now we suddenly have to look to 21 of Pete Herod. I mean, we talked about being able to pick up cheeky positions. He now suddenly finds himself running 13th on the racetrack.
He certainly does. Well, Pete Harrod is looking for 12th because he's around the outside, heading to the cutting on James Ewens. And all of a sudden, now a top 10 may not be out of the realms of possibility if something happens to Mickey or Diego Jimenez. So it's all starting to be a big party. Battle going on then for third, and battle going on as well for fourth position as well. Nicky Team has caught Gabriel Roos. Roos a 2:11.7 on the last lap. Everyone is starting to struggle here. Welcome to Bathurst. It all changes on a dime.
And I see damage on the left-hand side of that Workiva machine driven by Gabriel Roos. So I think he's had a coming in with the wall somewhere around this racetrack, if not some lap traffic. So all sorts of damage now for Gabriel. How is he going to hold off
turn one.
Nicky's team? So it's turn one where the incident happened. I'm still wanting to see if that car runs straight. I'm going to rewind the camera back a minute here.
He hit Jan Mletsva. That's why Mletsva stopped then, because he got clattered by Gabriel Roos as Mletsva was trying to get the car straightened out on the exit of turn one. Very dangerous from Mletsva. But my goodness me, how this changes everything. Team now is in this one on a scrap and has pretty much secured second place if things stay like this. All of a sudden, this race is heating up, Randy.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just trying to find this incident here. Having to really wind the cameras really far back. It should be on this lap when Gabriel gets the damage that I've now finally been able to get to. So let's see exactly what happens with Gabriel Roos. You can see the car's clean as they go into turn one. So what exactly happens here? Dude, turn one. Oh, what in the world happened there? Gabriel Roos is not going to be happy. What a rejoin in the world that was. As that was the number 80, like you said, of Jan Mitsova, who just had himself issues. And that might be day done for Gabriel Roos. He might be able to keep that car running, but man, oh man, he's doing actually a good job. Still has decent pace in it, doing 206.9s. But I mean, what was he doing before that contact? He did the 211 flats. Yeah, 206 flats, occasionally dipping into the 206.5s, 206. He did a 206.8 the lap before, right before that happened. So it's possible the damage isn't that severe, and that sort of lap time is just sort of as it came down. We're gonna have to wait and see, though.
We certainly are. We've got two great scraps, the second and third, fourth and fifth. We've been paying attention to what's just happened to Gabriel Roos. Don't go away, though, from Kurt Crum versus George Gruber. Crum has been under a lot of pressure so far from the Torque Freak Racing man, who has just been quietly working away on Kurt Crum again and again and again. And that's what he's been doing all race long, Randy. He's just been waiting for the right moment to strike in these cars, angling towards the inside, thinking about lunging one. Isn't quite there, but Kurt Crum will just about pick the run up off the exit due to the shallower line taken there by Gruber, and will be safe up the mountain once more.
Yeah, he's doing a good job as he works his way up the hill. As Kurt Crum just being nice and defensive. By the way, weren't we just talking about Pete Herod picking up P13?
We were, and he's now in P12 because he got past James.
Oh, Dave Walsh. Oh, no, I think, yeah, that was the Dave Walsh position. I think that's officially become official, so it bumped him up another spot. So I was going to be curious of what happened, and I'm just not good at keeping track of live timing. Is the TLDR of that situation? Is Kurt Crum still trying to hold off George Gruber as they go to the top of the hill? Not a spot for Gruber to even think about making a move, but he does a good job closing in on Crum on the bit of racetrack between Skyline and the Forest Elbow.
He is through the S's section, and now there's Jared Morgan in front, which will not be helpful. Remember, Jared Morgan is a Grizzly Motorsport car. That won't be helping Kurt Crum much. Remember, Constructors' Championship still wide open at this stage, and it will be looking all like bombshell after this race. Gruber, though, looking to try and get there, is just unable to close up, not using all of the draft either. He knew he wasn't going to be close enough going into the fastest corner in Australia Motorsport, on the brakes into the left-right chicane, and as such will have to play the waiting game a little bit more. The longer things stay like this, though, Andrei Rajkovic could come straight back into it. 206.9 the last time by, but look at Gabriel Roos versus Nicky Team, because Gabriel Roos has decided that's it. I'm having that stop. They were split by 1,000th over the line, Randy.
Yeah, so it's going to be about a 21 lap stint for him, 22 laps maybe at the end. Now Nicky Team, he's going to have the advantage, and if you're Nicky Team, what do you do here? Do you minimize the new tire advantage that Gabriel Roos is going to have here? Or do you wait as long as you can, let him come out with new tires for a little bit, run this to laps, 65, 66, 67. It's going to be somewhere in that realm. We're going to be expecting Nicky Team to have to come down pit road. I think what you're going to want to do, Jake, is push this stint as long as you can, and then set up yourself up for the last 15 or so laps with the lightest car possible when you have new tires, and essentially just run quality laps to the end. One of the things Nicky Team is really, really good at.
Oh, Nicky Team certainly is, and that's something that Gabriel Roos will need to understand of him. We also need to remember that Brenton O'Brien may decide to go for another short fill finish, so Gabriel Roos as well. We didn't see him take a full fuel save. What was the pit stop, Randy, actually, from him coming out of that stop?
For Roos, let's take a look. The pit stop time for him, if I can find the button, was 41.9, so not quite a full stop, but pretty much there. It's only 2 seconds or so shy of what we've been seeing from most people. Keep in mind, we've been seeing people do 23, 24 lap stints, so it's possible you don't need to take the full load on there, the full fuel load on there. And he may have had more left in the tank anyways, and might have just came down to snatch a repair, of which I think he probably still had an instant.
Yes, so I think that maybe the repair would be good if he's not used that already. He's come out behind Marcus Niskanen.
Car looks fresh.
It does look fresh, so that's the fast repair used, which is not going to be helpful for Nicky Team, but that brings Gabriel Roos back. Oh my goodness, Marcus Niskanen has just had the biggest iRacing moment I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Into the wall he goes and flung, I think, about 3 miles back like a troll in Skyrim. Marcus Niskanen, I think, is taking a tow.
Well, we're going to be riding on board with this because we're on the RaceSpot channel and we have the freedom to do these things. So as they work their way now down the dipper, let's see where this happens. As Niskanen in towards the elbow. See where this contact happens. Finds the wall. Oh, jeez. Apologies to those with epilepsy.
Apologies indeed. Marcus Niskanen, I think, has broken the speed trap record here at Bathurst, hitting 549 kilometers an hour, Randy.
Yeah, that was it's not good when you hit exit velocity to V8 supercar.
No. Very simply, no, it isn't. George Gruber, though, still close to Kurt Crum. And actually, I'll tell you what that does mean for Marcus Niskanen. That's basically his championship all but over. He'll have to take the tow.
Literally up in the air.
Well, literally up in the air, yes. More importantly, Pete Harris got another position.
Yeah, he has. That's going to be another spot for the 21 car to pick up, just cheekily marching his way towards the top 10 here, as he's gone from basically being the last car running on the racetrack at one point. Now he's the very first car that scored 1 lap down. Thing is, though, is that we do know that he still has to come down pit road, Jake, and there are some of those cars behind have already made their final pit stop, so he might drop a couple of these. As actually, well, technically Niskanen is the first one scored a lap down, but that's going to change here in a moment when he comes across for live timing. But here in just a couple of moments, when he eventually makes his stop, he's probably only going to cycle to what, P15, P16. There's not really that many cars that are going to get around him. So for him to essentially march up the field from effectively 33rd up to a top 15 is going to be brilliant for him in the points.
James King has just come down in and made his final stop. He is just behind Teemu Toika and now officially 1 lap down. So he is behind Diego Jimenez by a good fair margin in 10th position at the moment on the track. So a lot of work that needs to be done. Keeping an eye on Gruber now because Rajkovic has caught back up. 3-car scrap going out on circuit. This one going for now 3rd, 4th and 5th on the road as things stand. On the brakes into the final corner. Big puff of smoke coming from Gruber's 1, 2, 3 car. Well, it may be as easy as 1, 2, 3, but he certainly hasn't proven it easy as 1, 2, 3 to get past Kurt Crum.
Yeah, he's still really struggling, trying to reel in that number 7 car as they work their way back up the hill. And of course, Andrew Rajkovic has really caught this battle, done a good job the last handful of laps to bring that gap down. Still trying to get there, though. He's about 6 or 7 car lengths back as they work up to turn 2 for the 62nd of 81 trips around this racetrack. And Andre still trying to bring that gap in. Gruber, nothing going for Kurt Crum just yet. Kurt doing a brilliant job handling this pressure right now for the 1, 2, 3.
And it just seems to me that Kurt Crum has got a fantastic setup to go up the mountain. I think that George Gruber can't really match that. Andre Rajkovic has a very, very nice car underneath him and is actually the quickest of the three. 207 flat that last time by, took half a second out. This is just some very solid and good driving here, a minute off of your leaders.
Yeah, it is, and what's actually been really surprising to me, Jake, is that by the standards of a Bathurst race, you know, there's been a lot of attrition, cars finding the wall, but it's actually been a really, really clean race, and especially when you're talking about drivers not in the Aussie sort of area. Normally, you'd really expect the drivers to really be the most comfortable, cleanest, and quickest around this place, sort of be, you know, come from Australia, New Zealand in all likelihood. It's been a very, very competitive field here tonight of these guys, and a lot of which have not cheekily found the wall in some way, that have been putting in some impressive lap times.
There have been some very, very impressive lap times indeed here as Nicky Team continues on for another lap. Out of pit road comes Joshua Wolf for the final time then in this event. Crum still holding off that advantage. Top speed certainly working in Gruber's favor. I think Gruber's got to send one at turn 2 now. I think he's running out of time here, Randy, to try and make anything happen. In fact, he'll do it on the strategy call. Down onto the lane he goes. Yep,
he's going to send it onto pit road, and that's going to be a good option for him. Nice and smooth onto pit entry, excuse me. So Kurt Crum now, it's going to be interesting to see what he does, as I think what's going to have to happen is Jordan's going to have to find somehow, some way to get these tires up to temp and put in a fantastic outlap to potentially jump Kurt Crum in that number 7 car, because that's the advantage that George is going to have. He's going to have, you know, a lap on cold tires for sure, but he's going to have warm tires after Kurt Crum comes down pit road. Even one lap can really make a pretty big difference here.
It certainly can. Gabriel Roost will go by and get himself continuing. Eric Mickey finds his way through. Niskanen's back onto the lane again, so that won't mean too much in the long and short of things, but he should come out ahead of James King, which I think is what he's hoping to do. Is actually, I've just seen race leader Teemu Toika actually make a little mistake out on track, just a little bit too wide into the final corner. Got a big drift actually through the chase, but able to recover that one and sort it. Here's King coming through the final corner. Out and away will come Gruber, and now where's King going to come out in comparison? Not close enough. Gruber's safe from King, and that's going to be very telling because James King's not far away at all, only a few seconds.
Yeah, he's definitely not very far back in James King, so situation is going to be a little bit aggressive here for George Gruber, but at the same time, he still has, I think, enough breathing room. It's something like 20 to 30 car lengths. There's 2 Bushman cars. I think he might have actually been seeing Teemu Toika and thinking that was James King's, but, you know, Gruber, he really does have a pretty big margin here to work with. Now, does King have the pace to get to Gruber? I don't necessarily think that's going to be the situation. I think Gruber at this point, you know, 17 laps to go pretty much. He's going to be looking right out the windshield, and I think he's just going to be more worried about what happens in relation to the 7 of Kurt Crum as they work their way into the chase. Let's see if this little tandem now of Crum and Andre come down pit road.
Crum and Rajkovic then, who will cover off the move? None of them will on lap 63 of 81, so they are very close to their fuel numbers at the end of this one. The one driver who maybe you could argue isn't is Brenton O'Brien with his mini short fuel stop. He is running a very solid race currently in 6th position, but is due to come down and make his final stop of the day as things stand. So everybody now is gearing up to that 20 to go feeling here, which is already gone and by. So now they are a good 16 laps away then from finishing this race when Teemu Toika crosses the start-finish line. And all of a sudden, George Gruber will be thinking, well, do I really want to let Teemu Toika through here, Randy? Especially when he may be lap traffic. He's got to get through here or not let him through, because that's going to cost him time compared to the Crum Rajkovic battle.
It's going to be hard to say. I actually think George has the advantage here, and I think if you're Crum or Rajkovic, I think you had to come down pit road last time, because now what you're doing is Gruber's out there on brand new tires on really what's going to be a not very heavy race car. I mean, if we look at the pit stop time, it was 41 seconds, so actually George may have somewhat messed up and overfilling the car, because there's no way, I don't think you needed that much fuel as they work their way now up the hill once again. I think if you're George Gruber, you're going to have a bit of an advantage here on the new tires compared to what Crum and Andre Rojkovic are going to be having to deal with, because every single lap they stay out, that's an advantage that goes towards George Gruber on the new tires and on the new rubber. Something else I've also been this sort of pondering, we've seen Brendan O'Brien running these sort of longer stints, getting a lap 23, 24, 25 when everyone else hasn't been, and lap 25 was the first time he came down pit road. He also came down on lap number 50. That means we're going to be expecting him on towards pit road, probably lap 75, all things considered, as I double check the pit stop time. Actually, no, I take that back. It was a bit of a short stop last time, wasn't it? Just trying to think, when will we maybe realistically expect Brenton onto the lane? Because if he has sort of the fuel to do it, he could conceivably skip tires at his pit stop and just do fuel only and just have a handful of laps to go to the end.
Well, that's going to be telling from the Evolution Racing Team driver. He will have some very good statisticians out there, the likes of Riley Blythe, Ethan Griggold, potentially Ian Ford. Could be a big help to him in his ear if things continue like they are. Nobody comes down and makes a stop that last time by. Very telling, because Nicky Team didn't come down in, nor did Team Utoika. Let's not forget Gabriel Roos here. Roos is 5 seconds back of Brenton O'Brien. He's trying to hold off Nicky Team. He's currently scored, it's almost a minute back of Team, and that's probably about what we're expecting here. Probably going to be about 10 seconds back when Team does decide to make that final stop.
It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, most of the lap times we've been seeing is actually Team is actually, Nicky took a short fill the last time. I didn't actually pick up on this. His last pit stop was 27.4 seconds. So Nicky may not have the advantage we thought he had.
Okay, so that changes things here. So Nicky Team maybe in an almighty ding-dong scrap here with a certain Gabriel Roos. So all of a sudden, Gabriel Roos is in this race, and in this race for a second place finish. Still keep an eye on Crum and Rajkovic. Rajkovic is just following like a hawk at this stage. Kurt Crum hoping for any sort of incident to happen, anything to befall the bombshell car in the number 7, the Indianapolis Majors European Split 500 winner. Butcher it as much as you like.
YOLO.
YOLO indeed. Randy, you know a lot about Indianapolis 500 winners. Of course, your teammate Josh Chin is one of them in the iRacing realms. So Kurt Crum had a very solid season, has been great on the ovals, has been very consistent in the road, 4th in the championship, and has pretty much shown again why he is so versatile.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, currently in a podium position at the moment. Of course, that's more or less in a fight for top 6 when we eventually see these other drivers come down on towards pit lane, or at least when he comes down on towards pit lane. Still surprised Crum and Andre are pushing this as long as they have as Nicky hits the lane. Actually, no, I take that back.
Oh, he had a mistake?
What happened? Did he? Oh, he did come down pit road. We didn't notice that he had come down pit road.
Oh, he did. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He did come down pit road.
Huge margin over Gabriel.
Oh, that's where you saw the 27-second margin, because that's the short fill there, Randy.
Yeah, I totally missed that. You said that as he was going through turn 2, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize his stop was that short. I completely missed the fact that he had just been onto pit road, as it wasn't reflective in his lap times, really. It was a 2:08. Maybe I should have noticed that. It didn't jump out to me as a huge deal at the time. I thought there may have been some traffic involved, but now for Nicky Team, he's come down pit road, and he has a 14-second margin over the 323.
He's got a mountain straights advantage here, and that's very telling. So Nicky Team has pretty much put under lock and key, barring incident, that Red Bull Holden into 2nd position overall, as now Team Utoika knows he's got a minute and 10's advantage over everybody else. Now may be the time to come down onto the lane and secure a final stop with 15 laps to go the moment he crosses over the start-finish line. Kurt Crum and Andre Rajkovic still together then, as they now rush down the mountain, hoping to find something. In fact, no, Team Utoika also came down onto the lane that last time by. Such was the gap that he had. He has managed to come in and out and retain the race lead here. That's just how good Team Utoika has been. So Toika and Team both came down in when the eyes weren't looking, made their final stops, out and away again The pair of them have both gone, and there is the confirmation of 2:55.7 that last time by Crum and Rajkovic. Now surely you have to come down onto the lane.
I mean, you definitely could. I mean, you know, these guys, you don't want to focus too much, and actually Crum is going to come down pit road. You know, these guys aren't fighting with Timo Toika and Nicky Team, so you don't want to overly focus too much on what those guys are doing. You kind of just want to fight your own battle. But Crum ends up coming down pit road, could be a good option here, especially with that Red Bull car of Nicky Team that's quickly going to be bearing down on Andrei Rajkovic as he works his way back up the hill here off the exit of 2. Now, where is Kurt Crum going to come out in comparison to the people we've been watching him fight with?
Well, Brenton O'Brien came down last time by and made his stop, and he is out and away behind George Gruber. And Gruber is a fair ways away at the moment from where he needs to be. He's chasing himself over to the chase right now and looking to try and get as close as possible to a certain Mr. Kurt Crum, who still waits on his box, hoping to get out and away soon. Eric Mickey is also on the lane. Out and away comes Kurt Crum, and this one's not even going to be close here in comparison, because we saw how long that stop was for George Gruber. Big overfill, and that's about 10 seconds to work with.
Yeah, that's really hurt him. Brenton O'Brien is also going to be barreling down on George Gruber as well. That gap's not very large, only 2.5 seconds. And I dare say, I don't think Brenton would have made the same mistake on pit road. If I look at the pit stop time, 29.8 seconds. The bulk of that's going to be on tires. So 10 seconds short on fuel with Mr. Brenton O'Brien that time. Not going to be a full tank whatsoever. You compare that to what George had, 41.7. Only 2 or so seconds off the top for what we've been seeing all day for full field pit stops. I think Brenton might just be in for a P8 here if he can reel in this 1, 2, 3 car. He's going to have fresher tires and a lighter car these last 14 laps.
It certainly will. So Brenton O'Brien, the chase is on. George Gruber has been fantastic though when it has come to his pace, and I think he's done well. Next question comes then. Andre, how are you going to deal with this? Because he's got Nicky Team just behind, and he'll probably just peel off into the lane right now and cover off the move, and he does onto the lane, but he has been pedestrian trying to get onto that lane, and again very pedestrian trying to get onto it. Now finally hits the brakes and gets onto play, but that wasn't the 100 Ks that we normally see there, trying to maximize the braking as much as possible. He was very cautious about how he got onto the brakes, and now looking for his box. Kurt Crum, time is now.
Yep, time's going to be now. Let's see, where is Kurt Crum on the racetrack? He's coming down Conrad Straight and is actually into the chase. This is much closer than the gap that Gruber had everyone we were watching in relation to that 7 of Kurt Crum. So this is going to be very close between him and Andre as he works his way through the chase. When does Andre exit pit road though? Just watch at the top of your screen. I'll even turn the ticker off for that orange car to come around that final corner. We'll still wait, for that car of Kurt Crum to come off the final corner. I believe that's him right there. Crossing start finish, and Andre's rolling up the hill right now, so it's advantage Andre. Kurt Crum though is not going to be very far back. He has about 20 car lengths to somehow try and make up.
And he's got no favors in Dawson Brock in front for Grizzly Motorsport. That's telling. So a lot of work going to have to be done by Kurt Crum to get there. The gap is about 3-4 seconds if he wants to close that one all down. Remember, one driver still yet to come down and make the stop is Diego Jimenez. He's the last of your main leads to come in, as is Pete Harrod, who also needs to come down and make a final stop. We're going to keep an eye out then on what is happening with Kurt Crum. He's on the chase. This is RaceSpotTV, fan immersion. Andrej Rajkovic is pulling away from Kurt Krum, and it's telling in the battle for 4th position. 2:06.7 from Kurt Krum. Once again, another 10th from Andrej Rajkovic, though, extends the gap out over 2 seconds. The big battle at the moment, Brenton O'Brien, though, versus George Gruber. Look at the nose to tail through turn number 1 at Hell Corner, and George Gruber is struggling. Brenton O'Brien is soaring at the moment, looking for 6th position in this race, something that seemed impossible from where he started this race a good 2.5 hours ago on the brakes into turn 2. Not happening here, as we are now 11 laps away from the end of this event 10, when Toika crosses the line and Brenton O'Brien senses 6th for ERT.
Yeah, and he really wants it, and I think he's going to get it. Newer tires, lighter car. Brenton O'Brien has the formula here inside the final 10 laps as Toika crosses the stripe and starts lap 72 of 81. The rest of the field sort of on the lap behind, of course, as Brenton works his way over the top of the hill, still trying to just keep pace with George Gruber. It is this sort of phase of the race that we've seen the second half to Brenton not quite having the speed going up and then back down the hill, but he's really had it going through the sort of the first quarter and the last quarter of the lap. What happened?
There was a car off there, and a car that has just retired itself, and it looked blue, and the blue and white belonged to Markus Niskanen, who officially will call that day done, being so late in the event. So Niskanen
we have Pete Harrod. He's been on pit road for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Uh-oh. Oh, Petey boy. Not now. Not like this is what he'll be thinking, and like this it will have to be. He had an incident on lap 1, and it's happened at the cutting, and it was all on his own. Goes through the left-hander, loses the rear end, round he goes, bang, hard into the wall with the rear, and that has broken the rear suspension, and Pete Harrod now officially makes it a very tight championship heading to Myrtle Beach.
That's going to be a heartbreaker for him. That is the worst situation you can have. Going through the cutting, just catch one of those bumps a little bit wrong, and that car just basically spits around, and then you just, it feels like such a light tap, but that rear end has so much momentum when it snaps around like that, it would break. To break a rear axle doesn't really take much in terms of side-to-side contact, and he hit it more than enough. That's going to be a heartbreaker for Pete Harrod, especially to be driving so long on purely a recovery drive, and to have that recovery drive to throw it going so well, to throw it away in the last 10. That is disaster for him, and he is probably going to be really, really upset with himself.
I wonder how upset that he will be, but what is telling here is that it gives Teemu Toika a bit of respite. It gives him all the points that he was working so hard for, that he had been seen diminishing lap after lap after lap. He suddenly gets a whole chunk of them right back after Pete Harrod's incident, and that means for Teemu Toika, that 90-point gap probably comes down to at least a 50-point gap. Maybe even a little bit less, a 40-30 point gap when it comes to the final round of the championship. Now for Brenton O'Brien, he sees what he needs to do. George Gruber, try and find a move. It's not quite working at the moment. Kurt Krum as well, closing that gap down, took a good 4/10 off in that last lap comparatively to Andrej Rajkovic, who did have to get past Peter Vostrel in that last lap.
Yeah, he has, so things are getting aggressive for these guys as they work down in toward the chase. Kurt Krum as well is dealing with Peter Vostrel as well into the chase. He luckily gets that job done going down the straight. However, I think he would have been losing time up and over the hill. So for Kurt Krum, as he tries to reel it Andre, that gap I think is going to stretch out once again as they start lap 73 of 81.
And on lap 73 of 81, they know what they need to do. That is go and make something happen. And for the moment, George Gruber needs something to happen, and Kurt Krum is sensing, okay, something needs to work now in my favor. 2:06.8 compared to a 2:06.7. Krum had to get past Verstrel, which was not what he wanted to do. That's why the time has gone away in this one. We also got a battle right at the back, the last two vehicles on the leading lap. James King versus Diego Jimenez. Jimenez is on much fresher tyres at the moment, and King makes a big mistake. That gap's under a second here, and Jimenez is charging.
Yeah, he's going to reel in a huge amount of time after that mistake down that front straightaway. He can carry so much speed down the front stretch if you get that last corner right versus if you get it wrong. This time, though, James King doesn't get turn one nearly as screwed up as he works his way up this straightaway from turn one in towards turn two. Has that damage number 80 of Jan Masiva. We've seen him get into a couple of cheeky incidents here today as they work into turn two. The 510 sort of slots the nose a little bit, just harassing the mirrors of James King just a little bit, but not going to send it just yet. But I think it's a matter of time before Diego gets his opportunity.
I think it is a matter of time. You can see up through the cutting how James King is not liking the vehicle, gets a snap of oversteer on the exit, and this brings Diego Jimenez onto the rear at Griffin's Mount. And all of a sudden, then, as they head their way through Solomon Park, then they've got the Frog Hollow, then they've got McPhillamy Park to be dealing with. All of a sudden, Diego Jimenez has got that gap down to a manageable margin where he can start thinking about going on the offense against James King, who started today in 5th position and not through bad driving has just been outclassed as he's been dropped back into 9th position overall. Diego Jimenez sees it, Randy, and now here's the first real chance he's got. It won't happen here unless James King does not go as wide as he does do.
Yeah, it wasn't a great run coming off Forest Elbow, so Diego might just be able to make something of this. There's also some aerodynamic damage on James King's car, so that might help Diego going down Conrad Straight. He's going to pull out alongside over to the right, and Diego's got that spot made up. That was easy for the bombshell driver.
Oh, that was so satisfying for Diego Jimenez as he moves up into 9th position, exactly where he started his day. Brenton O'Brien, though, is dropping back. The hurry-up message for George Gruber has come and gone. He took 4 tenths out on that last lap. They had to get by Dawson Brock. And all of a sudden, Brenton O'Brien is looking a second back, going, hang on, I was supposed to get past you 3-4 laps ago. Now I can't even get near you.
Yeah, he's trying to. That's going to be the situation. He did have that lap traffic I think he might have had to deal with on that lap behind, so the 3 and 4 may have lost a little speed there, but what is Brenton O'Brien going to do? I think what we're likely to see here from Brenton, not that he's ever going to give up, but this is sort of the window. He needs to give 2, maybe 3 really good laps, essentially run qualifiers right here as they have a bit of clean track now. If he can reel that gap down and in a significant amount over those 2 or 3 laps, he can go for it to the checkers. If that doesn't happen, I think he'd just be wiser to more or less tame it down a little bit and just basically sit there and take the 7th place finish. That said, to my knowledge, I can't think if Brenton has been regularly running this series or not, or if he's just sort of a one-off for this one. He may just go hell-bent for leather, just try to get as many positions as he can, saying I started dead last and ended up in the top X.
Top 6 he hopes for, top 7 it will stay if things remain like this. So Brenton O'Brien wants to showcase just how good of a driver he can be on his day. He wants to show everyone, okay, this is what a real V8 supercar driver does. They go from dead last and they go up through the field and they look to gain X amount of positions. On the brakes, Brenton O'Brien into the left-right chicane he comes once again, but still not in the wheelhouse to make anything happen. Still outside of that margin by a good second. Gap though between Rajkovic and Crum comes under a second. Great lap from Kurt Crum. 2:06.5 comes into play, and Kurt Crum finds something that I don't think he's been looking for. Look at his last few laps. They've all been in the 2:06s. Andre Rajkovic, his mistake, 8 tenths gone.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was 8 tenths. It was a full second that last lap through, a 2:06.51 to a 2:07.52 as they work themselves back up the hill for the 75th time. So as they work up towards the cutting, Andrei Rajkovic is just trying to manage this gap any way that he can, but I think it might just be advantage Kurt Crum in towards these closing handful of laps.
It is, and well, Kurt Crum trying everything. Look at how close he thinks that he can get up the mountain. He's trying to bring that back every single stage that he can, and at the moment it stays, it hovers around a second. Rajkovic now will be feeling that pressure and will now have to try and deal with it best that he can. Brenton O'Brien, though, is tucked behind George Gruber, the closest that he has ever been up the top of the mountain. This is a worry now down the mountain for Brenton O'Brien, well, for George Gruber, because O'Brien is now starting to think okay, time to unlock potential and 6th position. Horrible dipper though, that's cost him a good half a second, and now George Gruber gets a little bit of respite in this one. Crum not close enough. They will cross the line with 6 laps remaining in this event, but O'Brien has got a very good Forest elbow out of him.
Yeah, he has, and let's see, the gap at Forest elbow is about 6/10. Now it's down to 0.3 as they work their way under the Fuso Mitsubishi sign. Will he have a look down into the inside, Brendan O'Brien?
Oh, you bet he will. He's searching for it, but he doesn't have the commitment to make it happen. Wiggle there from George Gruber, and he can't make the move happen. That's a shame, but there is more opportunities for Brendan O'Brien to try and make that happen one more time. But no, won't do it into Murray, so he'll try and unlock it. I think turn 2, Randy, will probably be the best bet.
I think it'd be a good one, but that said, seeing the speed that Brendan had down the hill, you may want to save it until the chase. We have a number of cars coming on pit road for some late race pit stops. Mostly our back markers and cars involved in incidents. So now in the last handful of laps in this event, what does Brendan O'Brien have as he works up the hill? Can he pull alongside that 1-2-4 machine, or excuse me, 1-2-3 machine of George Gruber? Gruber's going to defend low. Brendan's going to look high. Nothing going there, though.
No, he looked for the inside. It was covered enough, and well, it seems that Brendan O'Brien will have to look another way to making that happen. That was very, very nearly an accident. O'Brien had to be perfect when it came to his braking markers, and he absolutely was. Up the mountain he comes one more time, looking for something. James Ewens, I think, was a little bit slow, but he's okay now coming off of his exit. But George Gruber, all of a sudden, now has to try and run for the hills. I think he needs that second buffer again. He knows that he can cover things up the mountain. It's just when he gets down it, there's a Brendan O'Brien just hooning his way back into play.
Yeah, I mean, that Evolution Racing Team car, I mean, it must have been set up by Team Inex as quick as it is down the straight. They've historically had some very, very quick race cars at the end of the speed traps, and Brendan gets a very good Forest elbow once again. Look for him to work the draft here on Gruber and down towards the chase once again. Will this move work?
Will it work? We will see. Brendan O'Brien starting to claw that gap down, and now he's got the inside line, which is what he's wanted here at the fastest corner in Australia. Motorsport's breezing by and getting on the brakes early as well. Brendan O'Brien with a fantastic move, but Gruber's not done with it, but he runs wide and tries to get it back, and he doesn't quite have it there. It's not quite what he wants. Will he look at the final corner? No, not quite the move that's needed. Andre Rajkovic now, 5 laps remaining, now under pressure because Kurt Crum brought that gap under 7/10, but again, Crum does not have the best Hell's Corner to bring this one back to Rajkovic. Another 2/10 lopped off that last time by, and Crum just needs to find a bit more.
He definitely does, and as that's happening, I want to check back in with George Gruber. Does he have the speed going up to turn 2 to maybe slot something on Brendan O'Brien? That answer seems like it's going to be no as they work up into turn 2. So for George Gruber, now he has the horrible situation that you never want to find yourself here at this mountain, Jake, of having a car in front of you that you're only quicker than going up and over the hill where it's nearly impossible to pass. How could George Gruber even potentially fight back on Brendan O'Brien? I think he needs to try to force a mistake off Forest elbow, but I think Brendan's going to be very calm on his nerves. He's been in this situation in the past for sure. The Evolution Racing Team driver, as Gruber is tucked nearly right underneath the rear wing. Little mistake maybe as they went up and over the hill, and that opened up about half a car length in favor of Brendan.
And Brendan O'Brien now needs to run for the hills in this great battle for 6th position as they go down the mountain once more, as Gruber now tries to follow in the tracks and has done pretty well, but he needs good Forest elbow, which he has been struggling on. You can see contrasting lines coming into the corner. Look at how there's a lock from Brendan O'Brien, not from George Gruber. A trail brake, which allows O'Brien just the ability to point the nose a little bit better, and Gruber just can't seem to pick up the run that is needed and probably needs to be nose to tail if he wants to go and make that move, knowing how his vehicle is set up compared to the Evolution Racing Team man. Not close enough then as they get themselves on the brakes. Left-right chicane coming into full view. Not quite there. Look at Kurt Krum though. He's got a chance and Rajkovic is slow. And thank you, says Kurt Krum. That's 4th position. No, I lied. That's 3rd position now because Gabriel Roos is out and in pit road. Something has happened to Gabriel Roos in the latter stages of this event. I want to know exactly what it was, and it has happened somewhere. That's all I can tell you at this stage, Randy. That's up the mountain. That's in the cutting.
Trying to still find this incident that I think I may have finally located it. Need to reel the camera. Oh yeah, it was, as we finally reel these cameras back far enough. What in the world happened to Gabriel Roos? This is several minutes ago for the 323. Oh, just such a big bite of oversteer coming off turn 2 there. As we're going to reel it back just a little bit more. Disaster here in the closing stages, and heartbreak continues to strike drivers in the final 5 laps of the race.
Which means now Kurt Krum is on the podium fighting Andre Rajkovic, and Rajkovic was slow out of Murray's, which allowed the chance for Kurt Krum to get through, but Rajkovic has the tyre life, remember. He's got the ability to hold himself in great stead here in this podium scrap, and I'm sure good friend Nicky Team will want to see his buddy, his very good buddy Andre Rajkovic, up on the podium alongside him here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live in this penultimate round of the majors. And Brenton O'Brien, of course, himself now fighting for a top 5, still not safe from George Gruber, who again doesn't get the line that he wants when it comes to the Forest Elbow. Very wide goes Gruber, and that compromises the run ever so slightly. Here comes Rajkovic, as they are very much 2 tenths between them as they get themselves hitting the brakes. And once more, Kurt Krum is safe for another lap with 2 and a bit to go for your race leader to Snauki Teemu Toika.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see as they work down into Murray's for the 78th time out of 81 through that final corner and to the start-finish line. They'll come to begin lap number 79 around this iconic circuit. And I think Kurt Krum opened up himself a little bit of a gap down that front straightaway. So it's going to have to be even more work put in by that 99 of Andre Rajkovic. And they go screaming up the hill. It's a good first corner, I think, for both of them. Andre will have the slipstream advantage, but I don't think it'll be enough going into turn 1. And you see behind Brenton O'Brien dealing with that torque-free car still.
Yep, still is as well. He's got himself pretty much a similar gap as things stands. It was 4 tenths and 5 tenths respectively between the 2 battles. Only 8 on the leading lap. As things stands, on the brakes goes O'Brien into turn number 2. He's not quite there just yet. Rajkovic, though, nose to tail still as they head themselves to Griffin's Mount, the Lauren Heinrich corner, and the tears that flowed a month ago. But now for Andre Rajkovic, how do I make this move? How do I get myself a podium and join good buddy Nicky Team in that respect? The answer is he's got to get good corners, not like what he got at McPhillamy Park. That was so good from Kurt Krum. Just on another level, down the hill he goes. I think Rajkovic's got to go and send one here when it comes to the chase. He's got no real other alternatives.
I mean, there's a couple other places you could potentially try it, but you had starts here. In order to send it, you have to get a perfect Forest Elbow, locks up a little bit, and I think it was an okay one, but I think Kurt Krum had a very good exit off the elbow as well. As they're going to be coming to 2 laps to go, and they get to the stripe now for Andre Rajkovic. Not nearly close enough, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, as he gets a good head of steam coming down the hill and towards the chase.
He's looking, and he will look to the inside. He doesn't quite have the run. Small checkup. Brakes go the pair of them, and not there for Rajkovic. Does he give a tap of Kurt Krum? He very nearly did on the brakes. George Gruber still not close enough to Brenton O'Brien, but now it's a lap and a half left to go for your race leader, Teemu Toika. But Krum, yes, a big sideways moment, but Rajkovic has the same moment, and that could pretty much secure that Rajkovic now has everything left to do. He's got to find himself 7/10 in the last 2 laps, Randy.
It's just that little moment. He saw that car in front of him, made a mistake, smelled blood in the water, and I've had it happen to me. You'd be chasing someone, you see them make a mistake, and you get so aggressive that you just pick up the throttle a little too early, make the slightest of errors. That's going to keep the gap more or less equal to what it was, maybe give it a slight advantage to Kurt Krum. But Andre Rajkovic still very much in the fight, but a not great turn 2 might take him out of it. Keeping track of this battle behind as well. Brendan O'Brien has opened a gap, and I don't think there's much Gruber can do to bring that gap in. We're going to focus on this battle for P3 and 4.
We certainly are. The white flag comes out then for Teemu Toika. One final lap left to go, and Kurt Krum is doing all that he needs to here just to stave off the margin. Brendan O'Brien is still under pressure from George Gruber. He cannot rest easy up the mountain just yet. Is anybody thinking about how they are the best operators when it comes to the European majors, when it comes to Holdens and Fords here at Mount Panorama Bathurst? At the moment at least, Rajkovic is pushing too hard. He makes a big mistake, and that's the podium pretty much secured. So we'll look back at the battle for 4th and 5th position with a lap and a little bit to go. O'Brien down the Big Dipper, Gruber still there, and the big race that has been Brendan O'Brien's big charge, and he's got himself up to a top 5. That's Rajkovic around, and O'Brien's into him, and Gruber will run scot-free, and just like that, it changes. Rajkovic with a big mistake. Let's get a replay then of what has happened to Andre Rajkovic. That is the just personification of pushing too hard. All the tyre life gone out of the tyres. He found himself in the wall, and bang, bang, bang. That is that. Gets on the brakes. The vehicle snaps into the wall. He goes. He tries to get the car righted around again into the middle of the road. O'Brien is left with nowhere to go as well. It happens just like that. But to Teemu Toika, we will turn. He heads himself out of the Forest Elbow for the 81st time. He's led from lap number 1. He saw his championship rival Pete Harrod, who started 2nd here in this event, crash out at the cutting on the very opening lap. And from there, Toika has been able to run away. He will now go to Myrtle Beach, and he will take 400 and say, my title championship's still alive. He hasn't won since round 3 at the Copper Classic, but Teemu Toika to Snauki rounds himself to Murray's and takes the European majors. Bathurst 500 and says, bring on Myrtle Beach. Toika wins here at Bathurst.
He is going to be very, very happy with that as things continue to shake up behind. I'm curious to see what has happened with Brendan O'Brien. He's still rolling. He still has a lap to go here. But what's funny there, I mean, it's a fantastic win for Toika, but it's sort of a cheeky moment for Brendan O'Brien there, Jake, because he loses a position and gained a position in the same moment when we saw Andre have that incident down at Forest Elbow.
And you can see Rajkovic, he's dropped back behind Eric Mickey. He will be the last vehicle on the leading lap because Diego Jimenez did get lapped late, which means only 7 will finish on the leading lap, depending on if Andre Rajkovic can bring his wounded Holden back home. But it seems at the moment that only the last few will make their way through. A long wait for Kurt Krum. Nicky Team will cross the line in 2nd position. Great work from Nicky Team. He has done sensationally in this event here. Just kept himself out of trouble. Everything that he has needed to do. Kurt Krum will take a podium. What a well-deserved podium at that as well. Fought off everybody towards the end, and when Rajkovic faltered, he stood up and delivered as he finishes just behind Pete Harrod, who will finish off today in 20th position, 7 laps down. There's George Gruber. He'll come home in 4th in the 1-2-3 machine after getting caught up. Just running home scot-free, I think, is the right way to go. A little bit of help there with his teammate, Brendan O'Brien. It is a top 5. Not the race that he wanted to finish it in, but still a very, very good top 5 indeed. Mickey will get 6th. and it's a long wait for Andrej Rajkovic. Let's get results then up on your screen. This is how everything is going to finish here at Mount Panorama Bathurst, and once more the mountain duly does deliver. Teemu Toika to Snauki takes the victory, 38 seconds the better man over Nicky Team here today, with Kurt Crum at minute 25 back in third. Fourth position would go to George Gruber, with Brenton O'Brien last to fifth. Great result for him, with Eric Mickey in sixth and Andrej Rajkovic 2 minutes 15 back in seventh position. Diego Jimenez begins one lap down in eighth. James King and James Ewens rounding out the top 10. Peter Burschel finishes 11th, with Dawson Brock in 12th. David Van Broek finishes in 13th, 2 laps down, and then you're starting to get worse and worse as we go. Andreas Robertson, likes of John M. Roberts, the gentleman. Gabriel Roos, a late issue, out from the podium to finish only 16th. Likes of David H. Baker, Jared Morgan, Joshua Wolf, all grizzly, all struggling today. Pete Harrod, championship leader, door wide open when we go to Myrtle Beach. Sylvain Maillot found himself 7 laps down, and now we hit retirements. Andres Slisan, Enrico Leonhardt, Marcus Niskanen, we saw how dramatic his crash was. Likes of Treva Vorosky, Dave Walsh, Jan Letzver had all sorts of issues today. Jan Bruni, Cordell Cologne, Joseph Ringrose was in the walls a lot. Michael Endres, Robert Lundgren, and Sam Watley finishes off his day after 2 laps worth of racing. We're going to step aside though here on RaceSpotTV, the post-race show, coming to you after this here, after what has been a fantastic race at Bathurst. Don't go away. Well, you could say for the victory it was plain sailing. For the other positions, anything but at Monaco on a mountain. The most prestigious and most loyal home of Australian sim racers found themselves at Mount Panorama. And my goodness, what great racing that we had here today. It was plain sailing though for one driver, and that would be Teemu Toika, who picked up the victory. Teemu, welcome to RaceSpotTV, welcome to the post-race show. And what a simple victory it was for you. You only had probably about 4 corners you had to defend all race long.
Yeah, that was a pretty, I wouldn't call easy race at Bathurst, but yeah, a pretty dramaless race because I don't know. I was looking forward to having a battle with Pete or Joshua or Dave Walsh, but I think all of them ran into some problems tonight. But yeah, that was an amazing race. I don't know how I survived that.
Well, you survived, more crucially, 81 laps and severely unchallenged. You win by 38 seconds. More crucially, though, with the issues that Pete Harrod had today, the championship finds yourself going a little bit closer heading to Myrtle Beach. Do you feel like you have yourself a good advantage now heading to Myrtle Beach, seeing the momentum is on your side?
Well, I think definitely ovals favor me, but Pete is a pretty good oval driver himself, so I wouldn't count him out of the championship yet. We'll just have to see what the Myrtle Beach comes up with.
And how did you find the car today? Because a lot of people struggle with the oversteer and understeer elements that the car brings. It's sort of like you bring every worst nightmare, you open Pandora's box and you end up with a V8 supercar. So how did you find driving the V8 here today? And what would you recommend to people looking to try and get up and get started in a V8?
I think I'm pretty comfortable with the non-TC cars and with high power, and I don't know, you just have to have a lot of patience with the throttle, and when the car is so heavy and the brakes are so, I wouldn't call powerless, but a bit down on the power, then you have to anticipate and be careful, and then you have to you can't do any sudden moves, and then you just have to be calm and collected, and yeah, I don't know what more to say.
I say no more. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you at Bushwink Racing? A big victory.
I just want to thank everyone who watched the stream, and obviously the series organizers, Mike Ouellette mostly, and then everyone who raced and gave me a good and clear fight. And yeah, Team Bushwink, everyone there, and yeah, thank you everyone.
No worries at all. Teemu Toika with a massive race victory after action that we have seen here today. A man who didn't have such fortune, Randy, was Jared Morgan in the number 96. He always likes to come up for an interview. He ended up 4 laps down.
As I unmute my microphone in the broadcaster software like a professional producer. Jared, rough race for you today, 4 laps down. We talked to Teemu Toika, who had pretty much the smoothest race you could ever have at the mountain. You had the polar opposite. Talk me through your day here at Bathurst.
Really, it wasn't that bad. It looks bad because of the standings, but I knew I was going to be slow. My whole goal was to survive. I've only run this race 4 times and finished once. This makes 2 finishes. And a nice big points gain on Enrico.
Well, I'm sure you're going to be enjoying that as you get ready for the final round coming up at Myrtle Beach. You're also one of the few people out there in the Falcon, most people going for the Commodore. What's it like knowing that you're part of the correct half of the grid that ended up going for the Blue Oval?
I mean, I do have a Ford Thunderbird sitting in my driveway, so.
Oh, well, that's good. We are also a Ford family under this household as well. So very good race for you, Jared. Congratulations on reeling in some points. And overall, you are right. That car looks very clean looking on the replay towards the tail end of the race. Before we let that number 96 go, anyone you'd like to shout out, anything you'd like to plug before we close this thing out?
Like always, the Team Grizzly for chassis work, Pink Sea Illustrations, and Minis Art Commissions for their support. And we'll be moving on to Myrtle Beach in hopes to secure second place in points.
Well, good luck to you down in Florida.
Thank you.
Well, there he was, Jake. Pretty much the two tails of any way a Bathurst race goes. There's always someone who runs away with it, some other drivers who gets themselves into trouble, and others still who may be off the pace but are overall satisfied with their ability to keep the thing off the wall.
Exactly, and that's what Bathurst means to so many people and why it is one of the most beloved and actually most fanatical events that a lot of people get to find in the racing realm. But unfortunately, that's going to be all that we have time for here on RaceSpotTV and, of course, on iRacing Live. But there is more than just us who get it done. Firstly, to Advern Designs, the official graphics partners here at RaceSpotTV, along with ATVO and Apgeneer, the official graphics engine that you find here at RaceSpotTV. Live timing and scoring, which was on the Neo Endurance Series, which is still going on right now. Join David Haynes, Cam Walsh, and Tobias Brockman for that one. That is due to Nick Disson, and of course our animations done by Simon Grossman, and TrackCams 22 Isfan Ballo. Check out the cameras that have been on this broadcast. Myrtle Beach comes up next, and after that becomes the showdown. But Myrtle Beach, so vital, so important. Pete Harrod has let the championship slip away, and Teemu Toika now sees himself with a great glistening chance of stealing the European crown. You can only check that out here on RaceSpotTV, and so stick around with us, or check over on the iRacing Esports Network right now this very second and watch the Neo Endurance Series. So long from Mount Panorama.